ASEMCOL, Tunisia, ASSOCIAMET, Belgium, BEMSA, Bangladesh, BMSS, Germany, BVMD, Canada, CFMS, Indonesia, SIMSA, Croatia, CROMSEC, Cyprus, SIMSA, Brazil, DENEM, Ethiopia, EMSA, Estonia, SMSA, Venezuela, FEVEZUCEM, Taiwan, FMS Taiwan, Senegal, FENSS, Gambia, GAMSA, Georgia, GMSA, Russia, HCCM, Greece, HELMZIC, Hungary, HMZIRK, Argentina, IFMSA Argentina, Brazil, IFMSA Brazil, Chile, IFMSA Chile, Egypt, IFMSA Egypt, Guatemala, IFMSA Guatemala, Iraq, IFMSA Iraq, Japan, IFMSA Japan, Jordan, IFMSA Jordan, Kurdistan, IFMSA Kurdistan, Quebec, IFMSA Quebec, Spain, IFMSA Spain, Sweden, IFMSA Sweden, Thailand, IFMSA Thailand, the Netherlands, IFMSA NL, Denmark, IMCC, Iran, IMSA, Jamaica, JAMSA, Korea, KMSA, Kosovo, KOMS, Kuwait, KUMSA, Algeria, LUSUK, Lithuania, LIMSA, Oman, MEDSCO, Sudan, MEDSIN, Macedonia, MMSA, Malta, MMSA, DRC, MSA, India, MSI, Malawi, MSA, Kenya, MSAKE, Yemen, NAMS, Nepal, NMSS, Uzbekistan, Phenomenon, UK, SFGH, Singapore, SIMSA, Italy, SISM, Slovakia, SWAMSA, Malaysia, SMM-AMS, Switzerland, SWIMSA, Turkey, Turkmzik, Ukraine, UMSA. If you do not hear your name, raise your hand now. France, I said your name. Azerbaijan, you're connected.
Australia.
Australia is not connected. Please connect to NemoVolt.
South Africa.
South Africa is connected.
Okay, Bolivia.
Bolivia is connected.
Lebanon, Lemtek.
Lebanon is connected.
Qatar, QMSA.
Is PMSA Palestine connected?
Can you please wait?
Palestine, do not unmute yourself. Palestine is connected. Who else?
QMSA Qatar.
Namibia.
Please mute yourself and raise your hand. I will say the name, then the chairperson will check if you're connected or not.
Qatar is not connected.
Ivory Coast.
Ivory Coast is not connected.
Namibia.
Namibia is connected.
Paraguay. I have to say Paraguay.
Paraguay is connected.
Morocco. I have to say Morocco.
Morocco is connected.
Ghana.
Ghana is connected.
Pakistan.
Pakistan is not connected.
Romania.
Romania is not connected.
Serbia.
Serbia is connected.
Sierra Leone.
Sierra Leone is not connected.
Guinea, AEM.
Guinea is connected.
Moldova.
Moldova is not connected.
Australia, Pakistan, Romania, Qatar, and Moldova. Please connect to your NemoVolt.
Australia is connected. Pakistan is connected. Who was the next one?
Romania.
Romania is still not connected. Fasemere, connect to NemoVolt. Not through your phone, but through your laptop.
Pakistan.
Pakistan is connected.
Pakistan is connected. We have Moldova and Romania left.
Moldova is still not connected.
Please connect through the laptop and keep it open in order for us to take your presence. Romania.
Romania is now connected.
Yes, it's
بدك
You are connected now, Romania.
يعني بتفضلي هلا او بعدين. انا both ways I can.
Lebanon, please mute your mic. And Moldova, please connect through your laptop in a web browser. Do not connect through your phone.
In Moldova, you can unmute yourself to tell us what is the issue.
Can you hear us?
Okay, with that, we're going to proceed. Plenary Secretary, please take for the minutes the current presence in NEMO vote.
It will be taken now by Secretary Assistant.
Okay. Which Secretary Assistant is taking this today?
Mahmoud.
Mahmoud. Okay, Mahmoud, please inform us once you're done.
Okay, I'm done right now.
Okay, thank you very much. We have 72 animals with full voting rights currently online. Therefore, we have quorum and we can proceed with the agenda as scheduled. Today's agenda points include the presentation of the candidatures for standing committee directors, liaison officers, and supervising council members. That is the agenda for today. Does anybody have questions, concerns, or comments before we start? Raise your hand. Okay, just like yesterday, we're going to show the presentation, then we're going to dedicate 2 minutes for asking questions. Those questions are going to be collected and are going to be forwarded to the candidates after the end of the plenary. Then the candidate is going to have 24 hours to respond in a Google form, just like the one that we prepared for the previous candidates. And then the answers are going to be forwarded to NMOs once they're collected within that deadline. So, Plenary Secretary, you have the floor. The first presentation for today is going to be for SCOMI Director Candidate, presentation by Ali Chanawi.
Please turn your cameras off so we won't face any problem.
Hopefully. Yes, I'm opening it now. Okay, please turn your cameras off. The rest. Guys, please turn your cameras off. Thank you.
PVMD, turn off your camera.
Yes.
Swinson, okay.
I guess we're ready. Can you see the screen?
Yes.
Okay.
As agreed, please give it a few seconds to buffer and then we can start.
Dear IFMSA family, dear friends, my name is Ali, and I'm honored to present you my candidature for the position of IFMSA's SCOMI Director. Through my journey in the Standing Committee, I understood the importance of the word legacy, and to keep my boat going on the same direction, I decided to base my candidature on the SCOMI strategy. No captain can steer a boat alone. It's important to be surrounded by the best crew. I want to arm my crew with the right knowledge and skills for this to happen. I would like to review the current structure of the SCOMI international team and develop a specific competency model for IT members. And now that we have the crew, we need to have the map that will allow us to navigate to our destination. The members are the ones drawing that map, so we should listen to members by establishing a communication plan and a feedback system. The second step is to pursue the development of the interregional collaboration framework, which will serve as a platform to connect members and normies around the world. Finally, as we're listening to the voices of medical students, we're also representing them. It's important to discuss how we can create more impactful and engaging campaigns. During the next term, I'm planning to pursue the development of SCOMI capacity building. I'm planning to work on TMET, AMET, essay and PhD, webinars, and online courses. I want to take them to the next level by continuing the development of their framework, their regulations, and their assessment and follow-up tools. Even the longest river finds its ends in the Mediterranean Sea. The same can be said for the SCOMI strategy. The strategy has been guiding us and will continue doing so for one more year. Nevertheless, it will see its ends during the upcoming term. The term 2021-2022 is supposed to be a break term. However, there is a question that is left unanswered. What will guide our board during that term? There is a need to prepare for the future, firstly by preparing the SCOMI international team, and secondly by developing an annex document to the SCOMI strategy to guide us. Finally, I would like to finish on why you should pick me as your captain. I went through all the aspects of the standing committee, from a general member to a LOMI, to a NOMI and a SCOMI development assistant. I've seen all the different aspects, and I'm confident that through those experiences, I gained the confidence, skills, and leadership necessary to lead the committee. Moreover, I strongly believe in the power of meaningful student involvement. To the question, does the flap of a butterfly wing in Brazil set off a tornado in Texas? I don't need any mathematics or physics to answer. Yes, it can. Yes, we can.
Coupé, c'était bon pour vous.
Et c'est une fin de tournage pour Ali.
Okay, thank you for your presentation. Now we're going to have questions for the SCOMI director candidate. If you would like to ask a question to Ali, please raise your hand now. IFMSA Brazil.
Oh, congrats, Ali, for the presentation. I would like to ask you, how do you intend to improve the participation of TMET and AMET trainers in the management of SCOME campaigns and other activities in order to engage more these people in diverse initiatives and improve the outcomes of the workshops?
Thank you. Next, we have a question from IFMSA Estonia. You have the floor.
Hi, I would like to ask how you as a SCOMI director would plan on adapting to the possibility of medical education moving more and more online due to the COVID pandemic.
Thank you, Estonia. Next, a question from Turkmzik, Turkey.
Turkmzik, Turkey, Onur. You mentioned about TMET body on your document. Could you elaborate that, and what kind of changes would you do on that? Thank you.
Thank you, Turkey. Next, a question from IFMSA Honduras.
Hi, IFMSA Honduras. My question is, how do you plan to involve the active members into the work of the IT and NOMIs?
Thank you, Honduras. We have time for one more question. If you would like to ask a question to the SCOMI director candidate, please raise your hand. Spain, IFMSA Spain, you have the floor.
Hi, IFMSA Spain. We were wondering if you could specify how the trainer status levels that you suggest in your candidature would work and how this would affect less experienced trainers. Thank you.
Thank you, Spain. With that, we have concluded the questions for SCOMI director candidate Ali Chanawi. Now we're going to move forward to the...
Petrol, Sanya here, IFMSA VPA. Just confirmation, plenary secretary, can you confirm if the questions were noted down?
Yes, I was just gonna say this. Mahmoud, I gave you access to the document. Can you confirm, please?
Sorry, couldn't hear you.
The secretary assistant, I'm asking for confirmation that they got access.
Yeah, can you just clarify where the if you sent by email?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. So he will start now, and the questions for Ali will be delivered from the secretary assistant, taking minutes. So no,
they have been noted, right, somewhere?
They haven't been written in the document, but they have been written in the minutes, so they will be copied from there. So
okay, thank you.
Okay, great. IFMSA Spain, do you have something to say? Point of order, perhaps. Thank you. Okay, we're going to proceed with the first candidate for SCOPI director. Presentation by Gabriel Jose Ortiz.
Throughout these 4 years, I had the opportunity to meet others who shared the same concerns as I did about global health, lack of intercultural and academic opportunities around the world. All these passionate people that I've met inside IFMSA taught me to create my own path. My name is Gabriel Ortiz, a citizen of the world and a 4-year medical student of Honduras, a country that is in the heart of the Americas region, and I'm eager to present my candidature for Scoping Director. Throughout my IFMSA career, I've been able to develop skills in various areas which made me who I am today. My general experience is identified by the number 2. As you can see on the right, I have attended 2 CB events, 2 GAs, 2 RMs, and had 2 terms as NEO of IFMSA Honduras, where I learned that the NEOs are the engine of the whole Blue Light Exchanges program. I'm currently serving my beloved region as the Scopy Regional Assistant for Americas, where I've developed individual follow-up plans for each of the 21 Scopy active NMOs, activated a new one, and had 2 more. Manufacturing consists of 5 pillars which are guided by the Scopy Strategic Plan, IFMSA Global Priorities for the next term, and my experience as an IT member. As you will see, I want to focus on numerous areas and projects which might take more than 1 term. This is how I envision Scope to focus on academic quality, promoting and creating an educational activities database and manual on how to develop them. Additionally, create a manual on basic doctor-patient interaction for non-surgical exchanges. I'll encourage NEOs and RAs on the creation of national Scopy strategies and trans-regional collaborations. Also launch at least 3 out of the 5 Scopy. I want to look for the possibility of more active collaboration with our externals. Also, I will search for partners that can validate our exchanges in each region, as well as create a stakeholder map for possible fundings, grants, and sponsorships for our exchanges, and search the possibility of collaborating with airlines alliances, Ambos Lecture, and I want to focus on the PRED and TNET reassessment and create a new exchanges training focused on academic quality towards global health. Besides, I want to conduct a series of webinars about Scopy and promote national CP opportunities with the RAs. Furthermore, I will create and standardize all the exchanges workshop regulations and align them with the CBI. I want to restructure the IT, creating a development assistant for capacity building. This to ensure the quality and development of CP inside Scopy. I will actively support each IT member with weekly follow-ups on their work, mental health, and together create strategies to accomplish their annual working plans. I will work closely with SCORED and VPPRC about the new database proposal, and also advocate for the inclusion of exchanges inside the IFMSA strategy, a pillar based on academic quality. Including this will induce all NMOs, TO, and
the video
to work together.
The video, please, Mohammed. We have received a point of order by the VPPRC.
I think that the video is fast forwarded. Can you please confirm that it's running on normal speed?
This is the normal speed. Can you hear me?
Okay. VPPRC, I do not consider this to be a point of order. It could have waited until the end of the presentation, considering that we only had 20 seconds left. Now, due to the fact that you had to interrupt us during this presentation, we have to start from the beginning.
Yes, I think it's fair to the candidate that we check these technical aspects. That's why I did the point of order.
Okay, perhaps the NMO of the candidate can confirm. Is this the normal speed that the video was expected to be shown? If the NMO is present, please raise your hand. If not, we're just going to proceed as usual. Plenary Secretary, you have the floor.
Should I start from the beginning?
Yes.
Okay.
Throughout these 4 years, I had the opportunity to meet others who shared the same concerns as I did about global health, lack of intercultural and academic opportunities around the world. All these passionate people that I've met inside IFMSA taught me to create my own path. My name is Gabriel Ortiz, a citizen of the world and a 4-year medical student of Honduras, a country that is in the heart of the Americas region, and I'm eager to present my candidature for Scoping Director. Throughout my IFMSA career, I've been able to develop skills in various areas which made me who I am today. My general experience is identified by the number 2. As you can see on the right, I have attended 2 CB events, 2 GAs, 2 RMs, and had 2 terms as NEO of IFMSA Honduras, where I learned that the NEOs are the engine of the whole Blue Light Exchanges program. I'm currently serving my beloved region as the Scopy Regional Assistant for Americas, where I've developed individual follow-up plans for each of the 21 Scopy active NMOs, activated a new one, and had 2 more. Manufacturing consists of 5 pillars, which are guided by the Scopy Strategic Plan, IFMSA Global Priorities for the next term, and my experience as an IT member. As you will see, I want to focus on numerous areas and projects which might take more than 1 term. This is how I envision Scope to focus on academic quality, promoting and creating an educational activities database and manual on how to develop them. Additionally, create a manual on basic doctor-patient interaction for non-surgical exchanges. I'll encourage NEOs and RAs on the creation of national Scopy strategies and trans-regional collaborations. Also launch at least 3 out of the 5 Scopy. I want to look for the possibility of more active collaboration with our externals. Also, I will search for partners that can validate our exchanges in each region, as well as create a stakeholder map for possible fundings, grants, and sponsorships for our exchanges, and search the possibility of collaborating with airlines alliances and post-lecture. I want to focus on the PRED and TNET reassessment and create a new exchanges training focused on academic quality towards global health. Besides, I want to conduct a series of webinars about Scopy and promote national CP opportunities with the RAs. Furthermore, I will create and standardize all the exchanges workshop regulations and align them with the CBI. I want to restructure the IT, creating a development assistant for capacity building. This to ensure the quality and development of CP inside Scopy. I will actively support each IT member with weekly follow-ups on their work, mental health, and together create strategies to accomplish their annual working plans. I will work closely with ScoreED and VPPRC about the new database proposal, and also advocate for the inclusion of exchanges inside the IFMSA strategy, a pillar based on academic quality. Including this will induce all NMOs, TO, and relevant international assistants to work together in order to ensure the academic learning of IFMSA. Scoring, alignment of preclinical exchanges with the basic science ones and create a new exchanges training. SCORA, promote the SOGI Educational Activity Toolkit. SCOF, alignment of public health exchanges with SCORE Global Action Projects. Also, create a universal health coverage workshop for PDTs. SCOME, educational activities enrollments, and create an open access medical residencies database for all the med students of the world. SCORP, how to conduct an inclusive social program in IFMSA exchanges and about global health and professional exchanges. Thanks to the work done by all regions, I've been able to create my own path, a path to global health where I did exactly the opposite of what I was told. And by doing so, I found a place where I believe I can have the most beneficial impact in this amazing world that we live in. At least for now. And yes, this place is IFMSA.
Okay, thank you for your presentation. We're now going to proceed with collecting questions for Gabriel Jose Ortiz, candidate for Scopy Director. If you would like to ask a question to Gabriel, please raise your hand. Gris Helmzik.
Hello, Cleo from Selfie Chris. Thank you for the presentation. I would like to ask, how do you intend to manage the exchanges during the pandemic? What do you think can be done in case the situation remains equally unstable and crucial? Thanks.
Helmzik. Fasemer, Romania, you have the floor.
Thank you. Congratulations for your candidature. Our question is, in your plan of action, you have mentioned promotion of exchanges via regional priorities. Could you present some of them, and also how can they be applied in the current situation of a pandemic? Thank you.
Thank you, Fasemer. Brazil, IFMSA Brazil, you have the floor.
Just a second. COVID was a turning point into our terms, and we couldn't see any mention of it in your candidature. So could you elaborate on your possible concrete actions to redesign, guide Scopy, and make exchange trustworthy again during the next term? And also, in light of the financial burden caused of the pandemic, how could you ensure the diversity of students and make Scope exchange more accessible and inclusive during the next term?
Thank you. Next, we have NMSS Nepal. You have the floor.
Congratulations, you had a wonderful presentation. And can you please elaborate on creating open access medical databases? Thank you.
Thank you, Nepal. Next, we have Sudan Medicine.
Thank you for your presentation. We'd like to know if you're an exchange trainer and what experiences do you have that qualifies you to work on standardizing Scopy workshops?
Okay. Next, IFMSA Estonia.
Could you please elaborate on the new training that you plan to create and how they differ from global health advocates trainings?
Okay, and the last question from FMS Taiwan.
Hello, Kevin from IFMSA Taiwan. Thank you for your inspiring presentation. Your point of action consists a lot of details for scoping and collaborations with other standing committees as well. Can you elaborate how you will delegate all these tasks while maintaining the mental health of your IT members as well? Thank you.
Thank you. That was all the time we have for questions. If you have additional questions to this candidate, please make sure that you contact them by email. Now we're going to proceed with the next presentation for Scopy Director, a presentation by Saker Ghassan Rashid Dawood.
The best way to find yourself is to lose yourself in the service of others. It is with the utmost pleasure that I, the fresh graduate Saker Rashid from IFMSA Job, present before you as Scopy Director candidate for the term 2020-2021. I will start by talking about my journey in IFMSA, where I started as a volunteer, as an organizer, as a trainer, where I attended many international meetings and regional meetings where I held positions, and currently I'm serving as Scopy Regional Assistant for the EMR. I will start by talking about my plan of action, where I will focus on many pillars, starting with the sustainability and accessibility through academic quality, which I will focus on academic and outgoing selection criteria by setting a minimal definition, pre-departure and upon arrival training by evaluation, promotion, and update. Tutor recruitment, where I will initiate a tutor network to keep them connected, not to forget about educational activities, handbooks, and ensuring a good handover with the IT and news. As for the regions, I will keep constant support on the RAs and attend the regional meetings if possible. I will promote exchanges. I will promote global health and marketing and exchanges in the region to increase the quality of exchanges. I will make sure to push RAs to encourage NEOs to create annual working plan, budgets, and to increase the inter-regional exchanges and contracts due to the limitation of COVID-19. As for the visa issues, I will seek potential solutions with other organizations in collaboration and support of LOZO and VPE and EDA. As for the database, I will work closely with the SCORE IT to keep the viability and stability of the most vital functions of the newly implemented and created database. As for the capacity building, I will increase trainers per region, increase the quality and quantity of prep annually organized, as well as increase the Neo-Nori weekend in most regions, make it online if possible to make it more accessible, and update the exchange trainers database in parallel with the newly implemented training support. As for teamwork, I will keep constant support for the IT, keep the mental health watch, and keep it within NEOs pushing RAs to do so, and for sure evaluate and assess the current developmental assistance tasks with the previous Scopy. And for innovation, I will seek the possibility of creating LEX, Scopy initiatives, evaluation and follow up on them, as well as closely work with the SCORE IT to initiate Research 101 to be implemented for our students in PDTs, UATs, creation of strategy for emergencies, and capacity building on fundraising and budgeting for national officers. As for collaboration, I will collaborate with many committees, starting with the SCORE on the most important things and deadlines and routines, new database maintenance, PRET regulations, exchange week, and other standing committees to increase the new educational activities with different standing committees, public health, and other organizations like Isaac and Erasmus to overcome visa issues and exchange recommendations. I will make sure to do whatever it takes to keep exchanges shining like never before. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you for the presentation. Before we proceed with administrative issues, we're going to move with questions. If you would like to ask a question to Scopy Director candidate Saker, please raise your hand now. Associate Tunisia, you have the floor.
Hello, this is Luda from IFMSA Tunisia. Thank you for your presentation, Saker. Actually, I have two questions in the same point. Is that possible, Chair?
Yes.
Thank you. Due to the different backgrounds of exchange students, some criteria might sound non-suitable or infeasible in some animals. I'm talking about the outgoing selection criteria. So how are you going to implement this in all the regions? And the second question is that don't you think that such a big change in animal can, like this work need more than one term? to be done? Thank you.
Thank you, Associate Ahmed. Next, we have a question from Qatar. You have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. This is Tom here from IFMSA Qatar. Thank you so much, Saqar, for your presentation. You mentioned in your plan of action the post-COVID-19 recovery. Can you please elaborate more on how you plan on improving the situation? Thank you.
Thank you, Qatar. Next question from Greece, Helmzek.
Thank you, Chairperson. I would like to ask, how do you intend to work on the Skopje strategic plan?
Thank you. Next, IFMSA Brazil.
I wanted to ask, how do you intend to maintain the diversity of the students on scope exchange in face of the financial burden of the COVID pandemic, and also how to make it more accessible and inclusive for all the regions?
Okay, next we have Sudan Medicine.
Thank you for your presentation. With regards to visa issues, you mentioned that you'll seek support from other organizations in coordination with the LOSO and VPE. Can you further elaborate on that?
Thank you, Medicine. Next we have NIMSA, Nigeria.
Thank you very much for your presentation. You mentioned you want to increase capacity building in animals and in all regions. How do you plan to improve trainings for the professional exchanges in regions and animals that are currently not very active, and for those who have been previously active but probably currently experiencing difficulties in maintaining the IFMSA standard for exchanges? Thank you very much.
Thank you, Nigeria. This is all the time that we had for questions. If you have additional questions, this is for Romania and France. Please make sure that you contact the candidate directly. Okay, now we're going to open a speakers list. It seems that there are issues with the video quality. The animals that complained, please raise your hand so we can have a discussion. Fasemere, Romania, you have the floor.
I'm sorry, I just didn't lower my hand. I'll do it right now.
Okay, IFMSA Honduras, you have the floor.
IFMSA Honduras, thank you, Peter. In the call, the video looks very, very poor quality. Instead of the live stream, that looks kind of okay.
Okay, BVMD Germany.
Yes, we also agree with IFMSA that the quality was better yesterday with Saad sharing his screen, so maybe we could try this out again.
BVMD, that would not be possible due to the fact that the VPPRC is unable to share presentations today. Okay, so in that case, Plenary Secretary, would you agree that I can try the sharing?
Yes.
Okay. Does anybody have alternative comments, anything that has not been said yet? IFMSA? No. Okay. So in that case, we're going to proceed with the first presentation for SCOP Director, presentation by Mohammed Osman Ghaffar Abdallah. So since I'm going to have to multitask now, I'm going to ask you to bear with me. Okay, please confirm that you can see the screen. Anybody can unmute themselves.
Yes.
Okay, and is it in full screen mode?
Yes.
Yes. Dear IFMSA family, life is a collection of stories. Each one of us has their own story. And
Yes, it is.
I've become so generous that it gives us the chance to tell people those stories. I'm delighted to share with you a story of change that you've already contributed and will further contribute. My name is Mohammed. I come from a beautiful country in Northeast Africa called Sudan. 4 years ago, I got into medical school with the hopes of becoming a good doctor in the future, aiming to leave a print in this world along the way. The road took me to the Skopje newcomer session. The facilitator had a really long position. Little did I know that position would be mine at some point in time. I became a Skopje hero. And after a while, I was no longer able to recognize myself and the person I was becoming. I had the opportunity to take part and contribute immensely. And today, I'm humbly planning to write a new chapter and take on the role of IFMSA SCOF Director. I envision SCOF as a place where everyone is able to access opportunities and manifest their own potentials to becoming better future healthcare professionals and public health leaders. I commit to ensure the sustainability of SCOF's legacy and activity through closely implementing and advancing the SCOF strategy, developing and strengthening IFMSA NMOs, and finding new methodologies to address the global priorities, as well as strategizing the work on public health exchanges. And let me tell you something about me. I'm a capacity building enthusiast. Thus, I plan to increase accessibility to capacity building opportunities and support NPOs to pass on the torch and spread the word among their animals. I also plan to actively engage the members in the work of the international team through providing regular updates and offering accessible opportunities to observe the internal workflow of the standing committee. On top of that, I plan to create a robust social media strategy that allows me to connect with members and use this weapon wisely. Based on my experience as a leader, I believe that together SCOF achieves more. I plan to empower and capacitate the SCOF international team and collaborate with the team of officials in order to widen the horizon and explore new grounds. Besides the TO and the international team, I plan to bring everyone on board, the relevant program coordinators and liaison officers, in order to have wider coverage of external opportunities and well promotion of IFMSA. I have an ambitious plan for the standing committee that resulted from the cumulative experience and passion I gained over the past years. I'm usually driven by my purpose of serving the humanity and a belief in empowering medical students to foster the development of global health. I simply am crazy about SCOF and public health, but fortunately, those who are crazy enough to change the world are the only ones who are capable of doing so.
Hey, SCOF Director Candidate, I would like to thank you for your presentation. Now we're going to proceed with questions to be asked to the SCOF Director Candidate, Mohammed. If you have a question, please raise your hand. Turkmüzik, Turkey, you have the floor.
Thank you. Turkmüzik, Turkey, Onur. Do you have any plan to collaboration with SCOME to increase effectivity of SCOF works? Thank you.
Thank you, Turkmüzik. We still have time for more questions. If you would like to ask a question to Mohammed, please raise your hand. Spain, IFMSA Spain.
Hello, IFMSA Spain. Could you mention how you plan, or if you plan to adapt your activities or sessions to an online platform? And do you plan or intend on working to adapt SCOF to the virtual platforms? If so, how? Thank you.
Spain. Next, we have IFMSA Jordan. You have the floor.
Thank you, Osman, for your beautiful presentation. I would like to ask what is your plans for increasing the capacity for the public health exchanges, and what are your plans for the regulations for exchanges?
Okay, thank you. Next, we have IFMSA Brazil. You have the floor.
Could you elaborate what are your concrete actions to make programs and scope work more closely with the animals?
Okay, thank you, IFMSA Brazil. Then we have IFMSA Pakistan. You have the floor.
Thank you, IFMSA Pakistan. So I would like to ask that in the presentation, the candidate has mentioned that they intend to revise the PHLTT course and align it with CVIOGs. So what particular changes do you intend to bring? And after those changes, so would the newly adopted regulations also change?
Okay, thank you, Pakistan. We have time for one last question, and that is going to be Simsa, Indonesia. You have the floor.
Thank you. My name is Ori from Cimsa, Indonesia. You mentioned about the new methodologies for the global priorities. Could you explain the concrete plan for the new methodologies? Thank you.
Okay, we still have 5 seconds, so I'm going to give the floor to MSA Mawavi. You have the floor.
Thank you, Osman, for the amazing presentation. We have one question. Can you please elaborate on your experience in capacity building and how you would reflect that on your work as SCOF director? Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Moavi. Now we're going to proceed with the next application. The candidate is Taur Lilestik, also for the SCOF director position. Bear with me again. Point of info from Mohammed, Plenary Secretary.
From the EB, I guess it's written in the chat.
I cannot see the chat, CB. Please unmute yourself or raise your hand, better yet.
Sorry, just a question. If everyone can say the questions clearly so that it can help in the notations. Thank you.
I'm sorry, did any of the secretary assistants was not able to take down the questions? If yes, secretary assistant, please unmute yourself and explain.
Yes, I'm having a little bit of trouble with the clarity as well as the speed. So if we can go a little bit slower when saying the questions, that would be very helpful.
Okay,
so am I.
Okay, for future reference, if at any given point you're not able to take down the question as quickly as it is being said, you have the freedom to unmute yourself and ask us to slow down. So please use that for the next time. So which questions were not taken down so we can repeat them? If you know the NMO, perhaps?
On my behalf, it was the first one from Turkey. I couldn't get the final part, and the one from IFMSA Brazil.
Okay, Turkmzik Turkey, could you please repeat your question? Turkmzik Turkey, are you present? Okay, in that case, Turkmzik, I'm expecting you to send your question directly to the candidate. Now, IFMSA Brazil, we have the floor. Please repeat your question to Saker. I'm sorry, to Mohammed.
Could you elaborate on how do you intend to make programs and SCOF work more closely with the NPOs?
Okay, thank you, IFMSA Brazil. Secretary Assistants, please confirm that we can proceed forward. I would assume that that means yes.
Yes.
Okay,
yes.
Good. Now we're going to proceed with the video presentation by SCOF Director Candidate Taur Lilestik.
Dear IFMSA family, dear SCOF heroes, my name is Taur Lilestik, and with great honor I'm presenting you my candidature for the position of Standing Committee on Public Health Director for the term 2020-2021. Seems like yesterday, but it was 4 years ago when I joined Medical Students Association in a tiny country called Estonia. I was shocked that mental health problems are so common, but we are still lacking a support system. Since then, I have been working continuously to improve mental health support. I realized that we have to fight for what we believe in and can't stop before we have reached our goal. We are living in a changing world, and lately the need for public health has increased substantially. We have to invest in prevention, healthy habits, and accessible healthcare. My vision has 4 main pillars. Developing SCOF. Members are the heart of IFMSA, and SCOF heroes are the heart of SCOF. Therefore, continuously collecting valuable input and sharing materials with every SCOF hero has to be a must. Only then we can empower SCOF heroes to take the lead in every community in the world. SCOF teams. I truly believe that behind every success is a motivated and hardworking team. Therefore, I plan to develop SCOF IT and pay attention to their mental health to avoid burning out. Most importantly, IT's work has to be transparent to all members. SCOF capacity building. IFMSA offers numerous opportunities to improve ourselves. We have to ensure that they are reachable for all SCOF heroes. Considering COVID-19 and the possible travel restrictions in the future, my plan is to make our workshops and materials accessible online to help NMOs to improve their local actions and impact. global SCOF. NMOs working together on common priorities and solving similar problems in local communities are the core of IFMSA. My plan is to invest more in climate change and help NMOs reach a global level. These are just some areas that I would like to focus on. You can find a detailed plan in my candidature. During 4 years in IFMSA, I have been a local project coordinator, national public health officer for 2 years, and the SCOF region assistant for Europe. I have walked the way from a local level with its obstacles and achievements to an international SCOF. If you give me the opportunity to be your next SCOF director, I promise you to develop SCOF with my heart and soul and share my dedication and enthusiasm with every SCOF hero in the world. I'm very thankful for considering my application. If you have any questions, feel free to contact me anytime.
Okay, thank you for the presentation. We're now going to proceed with collecting questions for Taur, candidate for SCOF director. NIMSA Nigeria, you have the floor.
Thank you very much for the presentation. This is Ola from NIMSA Nigeria. When you listed the SCOF teams, you didn't mention the SCOF program coordinators. Do you have any plans to work with the SCOF program coordinators? And if so, please tell us your plans. Thank you.
Thank you, NIMSA. Next, we have SIMSA Indonesia. You have the floor.
Thank you for the presentation. My name is Ori from IFMSA Indonesia. In your plan of action, you mentioned that your priorities for the next term is climate change. How do you explain the reasoning since we're in the middle of a pandemic and the problem in a global scale is about epidemic resilience in the health system? Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Next, we have a question from Anne France. You have the floor.
August from ANM France. Thank you for your presentation. Could you elaborate some more on your vision on pH exchanges and the implication you want to do with this program? Thank you.
Anef. Next, we have a question from IFMSA Pakistan. You have the floor.
Lise, IFMSA Pakistan. Thank you, Thor, for your presentation. We would like to ask 2 questions. You said you would promote and increase member engagement externally. What strategies do you intend to implement to achieve that? And how would you ensure equitable representation? Also, do you intend to revise the PHLTT course apart from holding it annually? And how will you ensure that it's held twice annually? Thank you.
Okay, next, we have a question from NMSS Nepal. You have the floor.
Hi, this is Vishal from Nepal. As I have also worked as National Public Health Officer of my NMO in the past, I would like to know about your detailed plan in this post-COVID world about public health programs, since most of the programs have become virtual these days. Thank you.
Okay, I was personally not able to hear properly, so perhaps Secretary Assistant, could you please confirm that you took down the question?
No,
Yes.
not clearly. Could they repeat the question, please?
Okay, Axa was able to take the question, so you can copy paste it from her. Okay, perfect. We still have time for 2 more questions. IFMSA Spain.
Hello, IFMSA Spain. We have the same question we did for the other candidate. Do you intend on working to adapt SCOF to the virtual platforms? And if so, how? Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And the last question is going to be from MSA Mawavi. You have the floor.
Thank you for that question. Thank you for that. MSA Mawavi, can you please elaborate on your experience in capacity building and how you will reflect that on your work as SCOF director? Thank you.
Okay, thank you. That was the last question for SCOF director candidate Taur. Sorry, is it Thor? As in, like the god of thunder, Thor. Perhaps, yes. Anyway, we have a technical suggestion from SIMSA Indonesia. Secretary Assistant, who is taking the questions, could you please try to share your screen to see if NMOs would be able to see in real time the question that is being taken down? Perhaps AXA can do that.
AXA's taking the minutes, so it's either...
Oh, sorry.
Mahmoud, sorry, or Tendai.
Okay, so SIMSA, perhaps we're not going to do that at this point. However, we are making sure that all asked questions are collected, and then those questions are going to be sent via the Google form as we did previously. So if you are diligent enough, you actually have access to all the questions even before you receive the answers. In the end, once all answers are collected, they're going to be sent alongside the questions to the animal server, so you would be able to see them in details. Simsla, is that okay with you?
Yes, okay. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Next, also we have a point of, it's at a point. Turkey repeated the question that they asked previously. It's in the chat. So Secretary Assistant, please make sure that you copy it from the chat. This is for the previous candidate. Good. Now we're going to proceed with the next presentation, which is for SCORA Director, presentation by Fatima Andrea Rodriguez Osorio.
Peter, this video is longer than 3 minutes, so start from the beginning and finish at 3 minutes directly.
Sorry, start when?
Start from the beginning and finish at 3 minutes.
Yes, thank you.
Five years ago, SCORA saved my life. It taught me about a wonderful world full of inclusive people, loving and eager to change the world. My name is Fatima Rodriguez, and it is an honor to present my candidature for the position of SCORA Director for the term 2020-2021. My goal is fixed: to continue contributing with the creation of safe spaces for everyone around the world, so that together we can build a better, a more inclusive and fair society, not letting anyone behind. To achieve this goal, we must work together. The SCORA IT, the SCORA PCs, and you, the SCORA Angels, because you, your regions, and your animals are my priority number one. To achieve this dream, I'm proposing a plan of action with 4 pillars. Pillar number 1, member engagement. Pillar number 2, capacity building reinforced. Pillar number 3, SCORA visibility. And pillar number 4, internal work. Pillar number 1, member engagement. Toward this pillar, I propose working two specific things: member empowerment and regional empowerment. I want to create spaces of inclusion, placing the SCORA Angels in the center of the decision-making process. How? With the SCORA inclusive open spaces, with needs assessment between GAs and regional assessments before each RM. I want to have transregional collaborations with arrays and NORAs, and I want to continue doing a SCORA monthly meeting, including SCORA Angels, taking into account the regional and the gender inclusion. Pillar number 2, capacity building reinforced. COVID-19 changed all our plans and forced us to adopt online methodologies, and capacity building is not the exception. I take this as an opportunity to bring capacity building spaces closer to our members. How? I want to adapt and modify the SCORA workshops to different methodologies, as online trainings, one-day trainings, and I want to take into account the new capacity building IOGs and create international workshops. I want to create 2 specific small working groups. One, to review and adapt the SCORA manuals related with the SCORA workshops. And the other one is for create a new, a better and more inclusive agenda for the Bs and the B2B workshops. Pillar number 3, SCORA visibility. I want to improve the SCORA visibility and the social media impact. How? I want to create more inclusive campaigns, including the SCORA Angels and the PCs in the decision-making process. I want to discuss with the VPPRC the creation of the position SCORA Public Relations and Communication Assistant, and I want to create 2 specific manuals for SCORA exchange, one for animal hosts and the other one for participants, including the SCORA exchange regulations and the important information related with this exchange. Pillar number 4, internal work. Welcome to the SCORA family. In this point, I want to have quarterly one-on-one meetings with each member of the SCORA IT. With the SCORA array, I want to coordinate the handover process with the predecessors. And thinking into the future, I want to create the manual how to have an effective handover process. And then with PCs, I want to improve the visibility of each SCORA program. So I want to propose the creation of the guideline how to have an effective.
I'm sorry, but we have to stop the video at this point. We're now going to collect questions from SCORA Director candidate Fatima Andrea Rodriguez Osorio. If you would like to ask a question, please raise your hand now. Chris Helmsik, you have the floor.
Thank you. Thank you for the candidature and the presentation. I would like to ask to elaborate more on the position of the SCORA peer assistant. What would be the role and what is the need behind this proposal?
Thank you, Grace. Next, we have a question from IFMSA Honduras. You have the floor.
IFMSA Honduras. My question is, what are some of the parameters that you plan to use in order to rate the IT as mentioned in your working plan?
Okay, thank you. Next, a question from IFMSA Australia. You have the floor.
IFMSA Australia, thank you for your presentation. You mentioned that you plan on establishing new positions with the VPPRC. I was wondering if you've had any prior conversation with the VPPRC on this and what your plans are with establishing these new positions. Thank you.
Thank you, IFMSA. Then we have a question from Spain, IFMSA Spain.
Hello, IFMSA Spain. Thank you for your presentation. We were wondering if you could mention how you plan to adapt, if you plan to do so, your activities and sessions onto an online platform. Thank you.
Thank you. We have time for one last question. That's going to be from Pakistan, IFMSA Pakistan.
Lisa, IFMSA Pakistan, thank you. So I have one question. How do you intend to empower regions, keeping in view the challenges members face in terms of cultural taboos and restricted nature of work in certain focus areas? Thank you.
Thank you for your question. If anybody has additional questions to this candidate, please make sure that you contact them directly by email. That concludes this point. We would now proceed to the next presentation, which is again for SCORA Director, presentation by Claudia Simus. Simus, perhaps. Just before that, IFMSA Honduras, please repeat your question or write it in the chat.
Dear IFMSA family, my name is Claudia Chemos and I'm here to present you my candidature for SCORA Director. This year, I was serving as SCORA General Assistant and many of you might know me from making all SCORA actions approachable through SCORA Facebook group, among others. By this, I knew about the majority of SCORA international work to convey to members. But today, we are not here to talk about what I achieved, but where I want to take SCORA next year. This year taught us so much about the possibilities we never tackled and exposed the need for developing online opportunities for members so that they're accessible for everyone regardless of their financial status. This term, we address some of the online activities that will be sustained and developed. Those are interregional collaboration, small working groups, especially for campaigns in consultation with program coordinators, but also online training facilitation, open spaces that will still create an environment for sharing perspectives, online iPad that after some addition could provide all regions with sufficient amount of graduates that will spread knowledge and skills across the world. To increase accessibility, we will implement new initiatives like online teamed meetings, webinars, and trainings, which topics will be adjusted to members' needs and will be organized systematically. Also, regional assistants will be supported with topics to build the capacity of regional members. Do online events hinder participants' bond creation? Maybe, but do they impair the workshop's quality and impact? Absolutely not, and this is why I believe we should invest in them. SCORA fills many educational gaps, and since gaps are many, we won't be out of ideas to cover. I would love to take SCORA to many places. And the only way to do so is through collaboration. Strengthening collaboration between standing committees would increase the comprehensive understanding and knowledge of members and create a multi-perspective approach of shared matters. On the other hand, I would like to cooperate with program coordinators related to SCORA that would expand grounds of sexual and reproductive health and rights merits. From my perspective, many NMOs work on genital cancers under SCORA, and those NMOs deserve our support to effectively work on the grassroots. To do so, I plan to invite the program coordinator on non-communicable diseases to work closer with SCORA. In the end, I would like to promise that SCORA will carry on with transparency and approachability efforts to serve all its angels. And that's all for me. Thank you for listening. And in case you have any questions, I would love to answer to them. Dear.
Okay, thank you for your presentation. We're now going to collect questions for SCORA Director Candidate Claudia. If you would like to ask a question, please raise your hand now. Rwanda Metzar.
Hello, are you listening me?
Yes,
Do you hear me?
you. Yes.
Okay, I have a question to two candidates for SCORA.
Rwanda, I'm sorry, you can only ask the question to this current candidate. Okay?
Okay, Africa region seems to lag behind in terms of activation, visibility, and capacity building compared to other regions. What's your specific plans to improve African region in the area mentioned above? Thank you.
Thank you, Rwanda. Next, we have a question from IFMSA Pakistan.
Alize, IFMSA Pakistan, thank you. So how do you intend to empower NMOs in different regions, keeping in view the varying nature of challenges members face locally in terms of cultural taboos and restricted nature of work in certain focus areas? Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Pakistan. Next, we have Medicine Sudan.
Thank you for your presentation. In your candidature, you mentioned that you'll have online meetings with members and local officers. Can you please mention how you will make that applicable? Thank you.
Thank you, Sudan. Next, we have IFMSA Honduras.
Yeah, our question is, do you have a structure in mind for the collaboration between standing committees during SCORA exchange? What do you want to implement about that?
Thank you, Honduras. Then we have a question by Hyomsi Greece.
Thank you. I would like to ask you to elaborate more on why do you propose to invest on e-iPad? What's going to be the role of the trainees of this workshop?
Okay, thank you. We still have 20 seconds for questions. If you have a question to Claudia, please raise your hand now. Pakistan.
Sorry.
I imagine. Okay, Honduras. Final chance to ask an additional question. Okay, I'm going to lower your hand now. And I'm sorry for that. With that, we conclude all the questions for SCORA Director Candidate Claudia. We're now going to proceed with the first SCORA Director Candidate, Kevin Alvaro Handoko.
We can integrate things, only small things, with great love. An impactful quote from Mother Teresa. I believe that we should have love for everything that we do, and this love I have found in SCORA. Hi, my name is Kevin Alvaro Handoko, a medical student and young researcher from Indonesia, and it is my greatest honor to run as your SCORA director for the next term. As SCORA RA for Asia Pacific, I have achieved animal SCORA activation, actively participated in IFMSA platforms, and organized AP Exchanges Month. What I have been able to do in Asia Pacific, I know we should do it for all of you. I envision SCORA in the next term as the pioneer on enhancing the quality of exchanges, broadening the access and impact of research in compliance with IFMSA global priorities, access to research and research education. My vision for a better SCORA to my plans of action is encapsulated in 6 pillars. In the midst of the COVID-19 pandemic, we all understand there could be not a lot of exchanges going on worldwide. However, I personally see this as a golden opportunity to improve our exchanges database platform by ensuring smooth transition and maximizing utilities, and focus more on academic quality and scoring global priorities. Next term, I decided to help SCORI to have better academic quality through promoting its outcomes. Also, having collaborated with the current LME, I believe that it will be beneficial for SCORI to work with LME to gain recognition for logbooks and educational activities, and submit abstract and articles to open access journal and new external like OpenCon Conference and AMI. Better academic quality only can be achieved through capacity building. Therefore, if we see some improvement, we will work to improve breadth by standardizing agenda and refine TNATs by involving mini trainings and outline planning in the graduation evaluations. Having successfully assisted SCORI activation, I decided to empower SCORI RAs to assist animals activation and create the follow-up manual. And every region is very unique. By launching need assessment, we ensure that SCORI will always be sensitive to different needs, and prioritization will be made accordingly. I've been involved in 4 research and it makes me a strong believer to improve its accessibility. Now, it is an excellent time to raise awareness about research and open science by creating internal education for research camp and empowering Norris to engage on campaigns and IFMSA programs. Furthermore, with the successful collaboration with other standing committee in my region, I believe that we need to work with SCORI and SCOPI to implement sexual orientation and gender identity training and basic risk comprehension framework with SCOMI. Also, we will work together in joint session at SWG about ethics and research with SCOMI, SCOREP, and program coordinators, as well as social accountability with SCOMI and SCOPI. Most importantly, we will work with SCOF and SCOPI on gap exchange realignment to public exchanges. As a SCORI D, I will ensure that SCORI will have a diligent and approachable IT, achieve strategic plan goals, and actively collaborate with EB and TOs. Therefore, SCORI could constantly have highly motivated people and play an important role to improve medical research. Once Mother Teresa said, "I alone cannot change the world, but I can cast a stone to create many ripples." Therefore, I hope that we can work together to cause exchange through SCORI and its initiatives. If you have any questions, feel free to approach me, and thank you very much. Plus hugs!
Okay, thank you for your presentation. We're now going to collect questions for SCORI Director Candidate Kevin. If you have a question to Kevin, please raise your hand now. Portugal, Anem?
Yes, so thank you so much for your presentation. We would like you to elaborate more on how do you plan to tackle the platform transition.
Portugal. Next we have Asemere, Romania.
Thank you, Chair. Congratulations, Kevin, for your candidature. Our question is also regarding the platform, and it is if you consider necessary to make changes of the structure of SCORI IT, considering that changing the platform means rechecking all the research projects and the exchange conditions of the NMOs. Thank you.
Okay. Next we have IFMSA India.
Thanks, Chair. Thank you for the beautiful, well-worded presentation, Kevin. My question is, can you please elaborate on what ideas you have to engage with the IFMSA programs for enrollment of SCORI activities? Thanks.
Thank you. Then we have IFMSA Brazil.
Thanks, Kevin, for your presentation. How do you plan to work with research-related competencies and abilities within workshops and other capacity-building opportunities?
Thank you, Brazil. Next, we have Gambia, GAMSA.
Thank you so much, Kelvin, for that wonderful presentation. My question is, how do you intend to actually increase the animals in Africa that are not SCORI active? Thank you.
Okay, so the question is regarding animals that are currently not active. Is that correct, Gamsa?
Could you please re-say the question again? Because I couldn't.
Yes.
Okay, so the question from Gamsa Gambia is, what are you going to do about animals that are currently not active in the standing committee? Okay, we still have time for one last question. That's going to be Nepal, NMSS.
Thank you for your presentation. I heard you mentioning about OpenCon. Can you please elaborate on it? Since I'm also the Vice President of Open Access Nepal, I wanted to know more about your plans on it. Thank you.
Thank you as well. For the remaining animals, if you have additional questions to this candidate, please contact them directly. Point of information from Plenary Secretary. You have the floor.
Okay, thank you, Peter. Like I'm trying myself to write the questions and it's still so fast. So if we can like have some space of time, at least 5 seconds between each question and the next question, it would be great. And like for the animals themselves to speak a bit slower because it's really hard to cope with the fast. Thank you.
Okay, so we're going to slow down a bit, and this would also mean that we're going to take less questions that we did up until now. Therefore, starting from now, I'm going to give some time for the Plenary Secretary and Secretary Assistants to take the questions in more details. Now we're going to proceed with the next candidate for SCORI Director, Veronica Anayansi Moreno Mares.
Peter, please play it from the 5th second.
Okay, second 5. We are starting.
And every decision that we make, we take that curiosity and formalize it into the creation of new knowledge. Hello everyone, my name is Veronica Moreno. I'm from Mexico and I'm a 7th-year inquisitive medical student and medical research advocate. And today I'm honored to present to you my candidature for SCORI Director. Thanks to my work within my local committee and NMO, as well as being part of the SCORI International team as supervising board and regional assistant, along with the capacity building opportunities that I have facilitated, I have shaped the vision that I have for SCORI today. That being said, my plan of action contains 4 main priorities. Advocating for research education, combining academic quality and capacity building, I will take the efforts made during this term on the update of manuals and toolkits to create new capacity building opportunities that facilitate the access to research and all these different approaches. Also, I would like to work on the creation of open spaces like journal clubs and newsletters that help students worldwide to share their experiences and knowledge in research. Partnerships and endorsements, combining collaboration and recognition, I will strive to work closely together with the LME to strengthen the collaboration with our currently mapped stakeholders such as SPARC, ESMO, Force 11, among others, to achieve not only the endorsement of our newly updated SCORI documents and research camp, but also increase the quality and the usage within SCORI. In addition, I will join forces with other standing committees to improve our main areas of collaboration to widen the horizons of our members. Member engagement and inclusiveness, combining communication, promotion, and brilliance. I will reorganize the structure of the SCORI IT, including a capacity building development assistant, as well as a projects coordinator, who will take the lead on the supervising board in order to improve the quality of the work and mental health of the team. Moreover, I will work closely with the RDs and RAs to create focalized action plans towards each region according to their needs during and after the pandemics. Including the participation of non-SCORI active NMOs, I will strive on the creation of new promotional materials that facilitate the access to research and SCORI. Continuity. And here I would like to emphasize on having a smooth transition for NORIS to our new exchanges database, whose implementation and development will be crucial for the upcoming term if an IT company is selected. I truly believe that communication and transparency between the SCORI IT and NORIS can be ensured by the creation of trainings, workshops, IT online meetings with observers, and monthly reports. I will ensure that we follow our SCORI strategic plan and its recently adopted Annex 1. Ultimately, I would like to add that thanks to my years of capacitation, I have the required skills needed to take the leadership of SCORI on the process of improving its projects and research exchanges. Finally, I would like you to remember that if we work together, we can enrich the medical profile of our students worldwide, not only as future physicians, but also as future researchers. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you for your presentation. We're now going to collect questions for SCORI Director candidate Veronica. If you would like to ask a question, please raise your hand. And as of now, we're also expecting you, after you ask your question, you also have to write it down in the chat by indicating your name, the name of the candidate or the position, and then the question itself. That is to facilitate the work of the secretary assistants. Okay, I'm going to start counting the time. The floor is given to Swims Switzerland.
Thank you very much for your presentation. We want to ask, do you consider input of the Norris during the building process of the new database important? And if so, how do you plan on collecting the inputs? Thank you.
IFMSA. Next, we have IFMSA India. You have the floor.
Thank you. Thanks for the presentation, Veronica. My question is, do you have any strategies in mind to engage with NMOs that are not SCORI active at the moment? And also, how do you see the impact of COVID-19 on NMO activation, and how do you plan on working on it? Thank you.
Thank you, India. Then the next question is going to be from FMS Taiwan. You have the floor.
FMS Taiwan, thank you for your presentation. We want to ask, how do you plan to construct practical tasks and goals for SCORI if the pandemic persists in your term and exchange opportunities are limited? Thank you.
Thank you, Taiwan. We still have time for questions. So the next question is going to be for IFMSA Honduras. You have the floor.
Thank you, IFMSA Honduras. The question is, what specific things would you do about the small working group on the public health exchanges and the global action project standardization?
Okay, thank you, Honduras. Then we have a question from IFMSA Brazil.
I wanted to ask Veronica, what do you plan to, in regards of initiatives with externals to active and promote access to research and research education?
Okay, and the last question is going to be from IFMSA Australia.
Thank you, Veronica, for your presentation. You mentioned in your presentation you plan on a transition to a new IT platform. I was wondering what barriers you foresee in this circumstance and how you plan on overcoming them. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you, IFMSA. Please make sure that all of you write your questions inside of the chat as well for the facilitation of the Secretary Assistants. We're now going to proceed with the next candidate, who is Scope Director candidate, Batara Bisuk.
When I was a child, I've always thought all people were born equal with happiness alongside their parents, with no discrimination to worry about, no conflict to face, and fairness in all aspects of life. As I grew older, I saw the world was rapidly changing. I found it wasn't the world that I used to know anymore. I witnessed many discrimination, war, hate speech, terrorism, and other human rights violations. Even I faced discrimination myself because my family is a minority in the place where we live. Deep down in my heart, I keep the dream of Martin Luther King Jr., even the bigger one. He dreamt of a nation with freedom and equality. Meanwhile, I always have a dream for a better world. And I always remember what Walt Disney said, that if you can dream it, you can do it. I realized that the dream is possible to be achieved when I met SCORE for the first time. I believe every bit matters and every action counts. SCORE is allowing me to serve other people and do little by little for the world. I started from the local level, national level, and until now I'm on the international level. And I'm sure that there is no end to create a better world for all. Armed with love, passion, experience, skills, and the willingness to serve with both sincerity and humbleness, I'm telling you that I'm here in front of you. I'm more than ready to be your SCORE director. To create a better world, we don't only need a dream, but we need a plan. So here is my plan of action to develop SCORE and lead the initiative to create a better future. My plan of action consists of 6 pillars. The first of all, engagement and coordination. I want to create a competency model for NORD and SCORE international team. My capacity building series based on the competency model on assessment tools to measure the impact of it. Capacity building, I want to take a leading role in the 4th phase of work program for human rights education through international training on human rights education as a solution for countries for NMOs in COVID-19 pandemic time. SCORE activities, I want to create impact report and integrate it with SCORE activities database. And to have a platform for members to share activities and also human rights issues through SCORE regional sharing. And to have a sustainable future of SCORE by conducting global assessment in intersectionality and healthcare and establish SCORE SDGs report. For all those pillars, what is the biggest goal? The goal is to create cycle in this world. Cycle to keep fighting for human rights, building peace, and developing SCORE repeat. rolling back years, I'm still the little Bisuk who has a dream for a better world, but it does not only stop in the dream state, but I'm that Bisuk who already believe it, seen it, plan on it, and currently working on it. So in the future, we can all enjoy the better world for all. You can keep my promise that I will keep fighting for human rights. I will defend peace, and I want to live a meaningful life and be man for and with others. I'm not gonna run away. I will never go back on my words because that is my Scorp way. Thank you so much, and green hugs from Indonesia.
Okay, thank you. Somebody is unmuted. Please mute yourself now. Now we're going to start collecting questions for Scorp Director candidate Batara Bisuk. If you would like to ask a question to Batara, please raise your hand. AEM Burkina Faso, you have the floor. Burkina Faso, your connection might be unstable or your microphone is... We cannot hear you. Yes, now we can hear you. Go ahead.
Okay, thank you. Well, thanks for the presentation. As a Scorp Director, you have to coordinate and overlook large-scale capacity building programs like Scorp Camp, Go Scorp, and SRTs. We noted that in your candidature, you have not attended any such events. How do you plan to overcome this? Thank you.
Thank you, Burkina Faso. Make sure that you write your question inside of the chat as well. Next is IFMSA Pakistan. You have the floor.
Elise, IFMSA Pakistan, thank you. So my question is, as a graduate, how would you ensure committing adequate time to the IFMSA work, presuming you will be working in the clinical setting as well? And what strategies do you intend to apply to maintain this balance between the IFMSA work and your career life? And how do you plan on taking care of your mental health along the way? Thank you.
Thank you, Pakistan. Next we have Hong Kong, AMSAC.
Hi, thank you for your presentation. I saw in your presentation that that advocacy was one of your goals for the year. I was wondering how you would plan to address that in NMOs that may have problems with free speech and being able to express and fight for minority groups safely within their own community. Thank you.
Thank you, Hong Kong. Then we have a question from the Netherlands, IFMSA NL.
Yes, IFMSA Netherlands. We are wondering what would be your top 2 priorities for the term if you were elected? Thank you.
Thank you, the Netherlands. Next we have Brazil, IFMSA Brazil.
How do you plan to improve the engagement and impact of Scorp initiatives and discussions in order to align them with relevant global social movements such as Black Lives Matter, since we didn't have a bold response to this topic this year?
Thank you, Brazil. And the last question is going to be from Malaysia. You have the floor.
Thank you for the presentation. In your candidature, we noticed you mentioned about national officers, NORP competency model, and also NORP capacity building series. Can you elaborate more on that? Thank you.
Okay, thank you. This is all the questions that we're going to collect. Make sure that you write them in the chat. For the remaining NMOs, make sure that you send your questions directly to the candidate by email or on the NMO server, as you wish. Now we're going to proceed with the next Scorp Director candidate. Presentation by Elena Teresa Scholman.
Dear IFMSA friends, my name is Elena Scholman and I'm a 5th-year medical student from Germany and currently serving as a Scorp Regional Assistant for Europe. As a candidate for the position of the IFMSA Scorp Director, I have developed my goals reflecting on my experience in Scorp and taking up a leading position. My presentation is based on my plan of action, highlighting only a few important aspects. The first one I would like to elaborate on is shaping Scorp's future. The upcoming term marks an important step in shaping Scorp for the next decade. As the strategic plan is almost completed, it offers the chance to get creative. Aiming to be inclusive for our members and increasing the impact of the Standing Committee, it seems a good start to review and update our manuals and toolkits, as well as translate them in all official IFMSA languages. Interlinked with the future of SCORP is my second category, spreading the word. Capacity building is one of the main pillars in our federation and the Standing Committee. Having accessible events and workshops that have a high quality and are outcome-orientated is a main priority. Apart from keeping on the work of standardizing SCORP workshops and exploring online opportunities, I would like to focus on the development of new workshops and aligning our campaigns with the SCORP programs and global priorities. The third point is Scorpions' involvement. The strength of the Standing Committee greatly depends on our members. We do not only work for our members, but also with them, as their experience and input is invaluable in directing the Standing Committee. To empower medical students to fulfill SCORP's vision, I aim to give members ample opportunity to get involved in the international work. This being said, I would like to give members the chance to be observers in the IT monthly meetings, open small working groups on different topics, and gather input and feedback from the members through regular input forms. Last, but definitely not least, social leadership. To me, being the SCORP director means to offer support and guidance to the IT and members whenever needed, as well as consult with them on important topics. If elected, I would like to implement a flat hierarchy and autonomous work in the IT, as for me, these are two core elements to achieve a good working environment. SCORP has been a huge part of my life for the past years, and I would be honored to be your next SCORP director. If you give me this chance, I promise to invest all my passion and work hard towards fulfilling your expectations and the growth of SCORP. If there are any remaining questions, I kindly invite you to either go through my candidature or contact me directly. Please enjoy the rest of the online General Assembly, and I hope we will be able to see each other soon.
Okay. Thank you for your presentation. We're now going to proceed to asking questions to SCORP Director Candidate Elena. If you have a question to Elena, please raise your hand. Estonia, IFMSA, you have the floor.
Hi, thank you for your presentation. I would like to ask what challenges and successes you faced during your term as SCORP RA for Europe, and how do you think these experiences will influence you as a SCORP director? Also, there has lately been talk about problems in members' involvement in SCORP, and how do you plan on combating this issue? Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Estonia. Next, we have a question from Fasemere, Romania. We have the floor.
Hi, thank you for your presentation. Our question is, given the recent experience of an increasing lack of member engagement in international opportunities and campaigns, what strategy could you provide, considering the SWG work on this topic, in order to tackle this issue? Thank you.
Thank you, Romania. Next, we have a question from the Netherlands. You have the floor.
Thank you for your candidature. We know that terms in IFMSA can be challenging, and so we wanted to ask the same question as to the other candidates. What would be your top 2 priorities if you were elected? Thank you.
Thank you, Anel. Next, we have Rwanda, Metzar. Rwanda, you have the floor. Okay, in that case, we're going to move forward to the next question by IFMSA Iraq. You have the floor.
Thank you, Elena, for your presentation. My question is, can you elaborate more about the regional involvement and the regional empowerment? Because you didn't mention enough information about it in your plan of action. Thank you.
Thank you, Iraq. Then we have a question from Associated Tunisia. You have the floor.
Thank you for your presentation. This is Luda from Associame Tunisia. You have mentioned the enhance of SCORP members' involvement in the international work. Can you better elaborate on that, other than strategies that you have been followed with this term?
Okay, thank you. That was also going to be the last question. If you have additional questions, please send them to the annual server. For everyone who actually asked the question, make sure that you write it in the chat by indicating your name, the name of the candidate, as well as the question itself. We're now going to proceed with the next candidate for the SCORP director position, presentation by Maha Rehman.
Salam, this is Maha Rehman, a SCORP Director candidate from IFMSA Pakistan. Today, I take this opportunity to share with you my story, my vision, and my passion that I hold for SCORP. Now, let me take you all to a normal third-year gynae ward. Gunshots and murder of a woman whom we just assisted with delivery. She was bleeding profusely in front of our eyes. Her fate was doomed the minute she gave birth to a girl. This was not her fault, yet she was blamed and murdered. Now, this is not only Pakistan, this is the dilemma of the world. Recently, women in Turkey voiced out against femicide. But my question is, will they be heard this time? Bryla Stone, Mercy Mack, Shaki Peter, and many other trans women in America shot dead in cold blood. Why? Because they stood up for their rights. The rights of all men are diminished when the rights of one man are threatened. I relate with these words from Mr. Kennedy, but my question is, how long are we going to indifferent to devaluation of human life? I have now been working in IFMSA for 5 years. I have worked at international level and national level. I have elevated the level of SCORP and activated it in all Asia Pacific NMOs in my 2 years of regional assistant. I work with the externals, at policy paper, in SWGs and whatnot. I have never stopped because I wasn't meant to stop. Yes, I faced a lot of hurdles, but that only made me stand tall and confident in front of you because I knew what I was fighting for was right. Now let me take you all to a little chunk of my plan of action, that is the Vision 2030. Apart from what my job demands, I will actively work on the sustainability of the standing committee by strategizing the annual goals through A, capacity building, B, interdisciplinary development, C, internal development. In capacity building, I will work on existing workshops and training and introduce new ones. I will introduce the idea of SCORP exchanges and SCORP week. In internal development, I will introduce task forces, SWGs, work on the plan project proposals and active plans of projects, also member engagement in policy papers. In interdisciplinary development, I will work with other standing committees. Now, what will this all do? This will strengthen the core of SCORP from local to regional to global level. This is what my little plan of action is, and I hope that you go and read my plan of action altogether. Now, squeezing the crux of what I said, my struggle to fight for human rights started from the atrocities that I faced in my part of the world. But today it encompasses my vision that I hold for the Scorpions to be the deal breakers. I want to capacitate them to speak about any sort of human right violations in the world, to speak about the discrepancies, to speak about anything what is not right in all 5 regions. This is my aim because we're living in 2020 and we don't know what is happening next. I'll ask you one last question. If you will voyage with me, if you will embark on this journey when I lead you to the ironclad change, because this is what IFMSA stands for and this is what I am fighting for. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for your presentation. Now we're going to collect questions for SCORP Director candidate Maha Rehman. If you have a question, please raise your hand now. Jordan, IFMSA Jordan.
Thank you, Peter. Thank you for your presentation, Maha. I'd like to ask you, how do you intend to integrate your internal and external capacity building experience to help develop SCORP capacity building?
Jordan, next we have IFMSA Brazil. You have the floor.
I will be repeating my question. How do you plan to improve the engagement and impact of SCORP initiatives and discussions in order to align them with the relevant social movements such as Black Lives Matter, since we didn't have a bold response to this topic this year? And also ask what would you do differently from what is already being done now to be more inclusive in terms of involvement of diverse animals in SCORP initiatives?
Thank you, Brazil. Next, we have a question from IFMSA, the Netherlands. You have the floor.
IFMSA Netherlands. Thank you, Maha, for your candidature. For you, also the question, what would be your top 2 priorities if you were elected as SCORP director? Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Anel. Next, we have a question from Kyrgyzstan.
Yes, this is Parth from IFMSA, Kyrgyzstan. Thank you for your presentation. So as our NMO is new and we have got SCORP active status recently, and though we have managed to organize activities focusing on human rights issues, and we would like to focus human rights issues hereafter too, but in some Central and East Asian countries, government has strict bylaws, and due to this, we have some limitations to work on human rights issues. So how would you help us to overcome this? Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Kyrgyzstan. I have received 2 requests. The first one is to make sure that you send your question to the chat. And the second one is when you're asking your question, make sure that your camera is turned on. Then don't forget to turn it off again once we start with the presentation of the next video. Okay, we have time for 2 more questions. AMSA Hong Kong, you have the floor.
Hi, thank you for your presentation. So I see that in the past that you have submitted candidatures for this position and other SCORP-related TO positions multiple times in the past. So what have you learned or experienced over the past year that makes this year different from your past attempts? Thank you.
Thank you, Amsak. And the last question is going to be from Sake, Kenya. You have the floor.
Thank you for the presentation. I have 2 questions. Number 1, how will you ensure that the African region is actively involved in SCORP activities, because it has been generally dormant in SCORP? Number 2, how will you ensure, how do you intend to ensure that there is increased activity enrollment of human rights worldwide? Those are my 2 questions.
Thank you, Kenya. I would like to once again remind you, make sure that your question is sent to the chat so we can record it properly. Everyone else who still has a question for this candidate, make sure that you send it directly to the candidate by email or on the NMO server. We're now going to proceed with the next candidate, who is also the last candidate for the SCORP director position, presentation by Sahiba Sanjay Maniar.
They call me abnormal. I'm in a rehab. My parents refuse to talk to me. But I'm a boy who is in love with a boy. But I'm just like you. Can't you see? A few years ago, a friend of mine completely changed the way I perceive life today. After 9 SWGs, 7 IFMSA events, 10 SCORP activities, and not of MSAI, I, Sahiba Maniar, your PCEHRH, present to you my candidature for SCORP Director. I want to increase member engagement by introducing SCORP 101 through webinars, OLMs, and workshops. I want to develop the SCORP platforms and create opportunities for our members through small working groups in SCORP Sundays, and work on 2 very important aspects of overcoming linguistic barriers and analyzing and upgrading the member engagement SWG. Developing a region, I hope to have uniformity, accountability, and participation by having a needs assessment of the norms, 1:1 OLMs with the RAs during the start of the term, the midterm, and the handover period, monthly reports with the RAs, and encourage participation during regional campaigns, regional collaborations, and Go SCORP and SCORP campaigns. Activities make us think global, act local. I hope to have regular evaluation-based activity management sessions, increase involvement of the PCs, reassess the focus areas with the VPA, create resources and a SCORP annual programs map, and mainly align the SCORP and the programs database for enrollments. A trained Scorpion stays harder. I assure the quality of workshops through CBF existing trainers, assessment of all modules, and evaluation of soft skills and intrinsic change. I hope to have a biannual SCORP week and enrollment of all SCORP workshops. I want to develop the regulations of action and online workshops and introduce an SWG on CB engagement. For Go SCORP and SCORP Can, I want to introduce a compulsory training on code of conduct and cultural ethics, an advisory team that would work with the I team, and possibility of having an online Go SCORP with the current OC. I am here to create a sustainable SCORP. I want to update the SCORP database, ensure reports of all initiatives, upgrade the SCORP strategic plan, and reassess the SCORP active criteria with the NORS and the IT. The world is full of mighty inequalities, where child refugees are walking miles for shelter, the queer are begging for acceptance, women are forbidden from education, and elderly are succumbing to neglection. War is all around, minorities are lynched, food and water is a privilege, and the world is a cage. I am not here to create human rights activists. I am here to help create a world where we treat each other with respect. This doesn't start with me, it doesn't start with you. It starts with us.
Okay, thank you for your presentation. We're now going to proceed with questions for SCORP Director candidate Sahiba. If you have questions, please raise your hand. Malaysia, you have the floor. SMMAMS Malaysia, you have the floor. Ask your question to Sahiba. Okay, then we're going to proceed with the next question by Mawavi, MSA. You have the floor.
Thank you for the presentation. We have one question. Africa has many newly activated NMOs. So how do you plan, how will you develop SCORP active NMOs, and will there be any specific measures for less active SCORP active NMOs? Thank you.
Thank you for your question. Next, we have a question by Kyrgyzstan. You have the floor.
Hello, this is Parth from IFMSA, Kyrgyzstan. As we know, due to the pandemic situation, we all have some limitations while focusing on human rights issues. So, do you have any action plan for any virtual programs? Thank you.
Thank you. Then we have a question from Rwanda. Metsar, you have the floor.
Thank you for the good presentation. So when elected, what will be your two main priorities in SCORP? Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Rwanda. Next, we have a question from Sudan. Medicine, you have the floor.
Thank you for the presentation. We'd like to ask, since you're currently a program coordinator, but you're not part of the current IT, how do you plan on bridging the gap of knowledge with regards to the latest updates? Thank you.
Thank you, Sudan. Then we have a question from Burkina Faso. AEM, you have the floor. Burkina Faso, we cannot hear you. Still nothing. Okay, Burkina Faso, please write down your question in the chat. We're going to move forward to Greece. Helmzik, you have the floor.
Thank you. I would like to ask the candidate to elaborate more on the action activity and how it can enhance SCORP activities in general.
Okay, thank you, Helmzik. And with that, we conclude the time we have for questions for this candidate. If you have additional questions, make sure that you send them over the NMO server. For everyone who did ask a question, make sure that you write it down in the chat. Now we're going to, and with that, we conclude the SCORP, the Standing Committee Director candidates. We now proceed with the Liaison Officer candidates. starting by the Liaison Officer for Medical Education Issues candidate, presentation by Abdullah Muhammad Rajesh Al-Kafaji.
Dear LMOs, dear IFMSA, it's my utmost pleasure to introduce to you my candidature for the position of the IFMSA Liaison Officer for Medical Education Issues. My name is Abdullah Al-Khafaji. I come from Iraq. I have an international experience of 20 Also, I want to start the term with a solid follow-up through creating a mentorship group with former LMEs, evaluating external resources, and conducting a needs assessment. Regarding the IFMSA partnerships, I want to advocate to increase IFMSA's representation in the external meetings and work of our partners, including AMI, WFME, TOF, and OpenCon. I want to give extra attention to regional associations and externals, such as working on the second edition of the Social Accountability course with AMI and more, and I also want to work with NMOs with organizations that have national focus, such as FAMER, ECFMG, and SIDMA. As I will be working with the following parties, proper communication will be the key factor to achieve the ideal team dynamics and the highest quality of work. I will be aligning my work with the IFMSA global priorities, Health Workforce 2030, Global Health Education, and Open Access in case of their adoption. I will work on implementing their external goals, and I'll work with RDs not to neglect regional priorities and make sure to achieve their external goals. Policy documents will be the base of our external stances. I will work extensively to promote policy usage on all levels. Also, I will conduct a needs assessment to propose new policies, and I will create new opportunities for members' engagement and education, such as the MedEd Policy Week campaign. A lot of work needs to be done in terms of exchanges, such as increasing the quantity and quality of IFMSA's presence in medical literature, recognition and academic quality of IFMSA exchanges, global health courses, sessions, resources, and externals, and also working on the IFMSA research camp in terms of recognition, promotion, and sponsorship. Scopy and Scori have been doing great work producing a lot of manuals, handbooks, logbooks, and frameworks, and many other documents, and all of those needs to be endorsed. I'll work during the term, if elected, to contact all the relevant stakeholders to endorse those documents by the end of the term. In terms of capacity building, I'll work on updating the external institutional memory in the SCOME public folder, the NEO folder, the NORI folder, as well as providing online capacity building opportunities such as the monthly campaign of External of the Month, open spaces, webinars, updates from external meetings, and also developing outlines for sessions and trainings on medical education external presentation and policy masterclass trainings. When it comes to handover, the question arises, does IFMSA need a liaison officer for exchanges? I'll work hard if elected to answer this question and provide personal input and recommendations. And I'll guarantee to provide the best quality handover to my successor if it was 1 or 2 officials.
Okay, the presentation has exceeded 3 minutes, therefore we have to stop. We're now going to collect questions for LME candidate, Abdullah. If you would like to ask a question, please raise your hand. Med Tunisia, you have the floor. I would like to remind NMOs to start their cameras when they're asking the question.
This is Luda from Association Tunisia. Sorry, like I raised my hand before. Sorry.
Okay, you don't have a question, is that correct? Yes. Okay, next we have a question by Msake Kenya. You have the floor.
Thank you for your presentation. I have one question. How will you improve opportunities for medical students from low and middle income countries to attend external meetings? Thank you.
Thank you, Kenya. Next, we have a question from the Republic of Moldova. You have the floor.
Hello, thank you for your presentation. Daniel from ISRM Moldova. So our question will be, what specific steps do you intend to take in order to achieve recognition and endorsement of exchanges, as well as SCORI logbook? Thank you.
Thank you, Moldova. Next, we have a question from IFMSA Brazil.
Thank you, Abdullah, for your presentation. In regards of research education, what initiatives could be developed with AME and FME in order to tackle this topic within IFMSA, and what new externals do you plan to approach in order to develop activities or manuals related to access to research and research education?
Okay, thank you, Brazil. Then we have a question from Anna in Portugal. You have the floor.
Thank you for your presentation. I would like to know if you could elaborate more on how do you intend to strengthen local and national students' engagement in accreditation processes through NMO support.
Okay, thank you, Portugal. We still have 30 seconds for questions. If you would like to ask a question to LME candidate Abdullah, please raise your hand now. Brazil, IFMSA Brazil, would you still like to ask a question?
Nope, I just forgot to.
Okay, last chance to ask a question to LME candidate Abdullah. Going twice. Sudan, Metsi Sudan, you have the floor.
Thank you, Abdullah, for your presentation. We'd just like to know, since you don't have experience with in-person AME conferences, how do you plan to coordinate the upcoming student task force? Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Sudan. That was the last question that we collected. Please be reminded to write your questions inside of the chat as well, so we can write them in the minutes. Now we're going to proceed with the next candidature, applicant for LME, presentation by Ala Abu Sufyan Dafala. Please note the format of this video is different, therefore there might be an issue. If there is, please raise your hand.
Hello, IFMSA. My name is Ala Dafala, and I'm IFMSA's current liaison officer for medical education issues. It gives me immense honor, pleasure, and excitement to stand in front of you again, but virtually, to present my candidature for the second term in the position. 6 years ago, IFMSA gave me an incredible opportunity to discover my passion for student advocacy and the development of medical education. Ever since, you continue to inspire me every single day to make sure that student voices are at the center of development of education worldwide. COVID-19 has disrupted a lot of things, including education, and it is currently being reshaped. Over the coming slides or minutes, you would be exposed to what I see as a solid vision and concrete actions that we can take together as a federation to make sure that we are at the forefront for advocacy for medical education. It has been an absolute privilege to represent your voice on medical education affairs globally, and I'm deeply motivated to pay forward the gained experience, clarity and familiarity in order to ensure continuity and sustenance of IFMSA's medical education external relations. Other than that, I find myself deeply committed to continue to look for creative ways to increase member opportunities and advance IFMSA in general.
Okay, thank you for your presentation. The screen is blocked. We can't see the full video. Okay, Germany, was that a point of order, perhaps, or point of information? Germany, you can elaborate, please, before we proceed with questions. What is the issue?
It was sorry, Lucas from BVND Germany. It was resolved a bit later. I think in the beginning there was just a small part of the screen blocked by I don't know what, so it was resolved a bit later. I think it's okay.
Okay, thank you, Germany. Now we're going to collect questions for, I'm sorry, LME candidate Allah. If you have questions, please raise your hand. And in Portugal, we have the floor.
Yes, thank you, Allah, for your presentation. With regards to external meetings, for example, AMI Executive Committee meetings and WFME meetings, do you intend to keep NMOs updated regarding the main conclusions? And if yes, how?
Thank you, Anem. Next, we have FMS Taiwan. You have the floor.
FMS Taiwan, thank you for your presentation. We noticed that you were absent during March meeting in Rwanda this year, and there were also some time periods which you remain very unavailable during this term. Do you think such situations can be avoided if you were elected for another term, and how do you ensure that the communication between IFMSA and SCOME externals are not affected under such circumstances? Thank you.
Thank you, Taiwan. Next, we have a question from IFMSA Brazil. You have the floor.
Taking into consideration that AMI is a very important stakeholder for IFMSA, could you elaborate on how would you manage to avoid incidents like the lost AMI Students Task Force applications and further communication problems with AMI?
Okay, thank you, Brazil. Next, we have a question from Moldova.
Thank you, Ala, for your presentation. Our question is going to be the same as the previous candidates. What specific steps do you intend to take in order to achieve recognition and endorsement of exchanges and as well as score a logbook? Thank you.
Thank you, Moldova. Two more questions. Slomsik Slovenia, you have the floor.
Hi, Slomsik Slovenia. What were your struggles during this term, and what are the main areas of LME work you plan to improve on? Thank you.
Thank you, Slovenia. Students at Switzerland, you have the floor.
Thank you. Students of Switzerland, dear Ala, thank you for your presentation. Your plan of action is focused on external work. How do you plan to bring external involvement closer to the standing committee members and engage them? Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Swimsa. That is all the time we have for questions. If you have additional questions, please contact the candidate directly by email or on the NMO server. All the animals who ask their questions, please make sure that you write them in the chat so secretary assistants can write them in the minutes. We're now going to proceed with the next candidate, who is also the candidate for liaison officer for public health issues, Omnia Ibrahim Ewom Rani.
Hi. 5 years ago, I attended my first General Assembly as a SCOF delegate in Macedonia. 3 months ago, I attended my 7th General Assembly as the liaison officer for public health issues, sharing my unconditional love.
Okay, I'm just going to stop and I'm going to use a different source for this video.
Hi. 5 years ago, I attended my first General Assembly as a SCOF delegate in Macedonia. 3 months ago, I attended my 7th General Assembly as the liaison officer for public health issues, sharing my unconditional love for public health and passion for external affairs. Today, I stand before you to present once again my candidature for LPH for the term 2021, with relentless motivation to get the opportunity to serve our federation and our members. Allow me to introduce myself. I'm Omnaya Lambrani. I'm a final year medical student from Egypt, and I've been serving IFMSA for the past 5 years on a national level as NPO, on a regional as a SCOF regional assistant for EMR, on a global level as a SCOF development assistant, and finally as LPH. 11 external meetings, 8 policy commissions, and 6 small working groups played a significant role in my extensive experience. My plan of action is divided into 3 pillars: external affairs, empowerment of members in the final E, elevation and teamwork. In terms of external affairs, I would like to conduct an initial assessment of past, current, and potential collaborations and the impact of COVID-19 on these partnerships, while also sustaining the effective IFMSA COVID-19 response and ensuring that IFMSA plays an integral part in the post-pandemic recovery efforts. In terms of climate change, I would like to strengthen the position of IFMSA as a valued stakeholder in the climate emergency by advancing the IFMSA climate and health vision, while increasing the involvement of IFMSA in biodiversity, gender and climate change, as well as food sustainability. In addition to increasing our efforts in other areas such as mental health, road safety, and NCDs. In terms of member empowerment, I would like to assess the usage of policy documents in SCOF with the help of the VPE, conduct virtual discussions before the General Assembly for policies, seek inputs from IFMSA alumni and experts, and finally support the NMO efforts in policy proposals. I would like to use the program annual report to showcase the efforts of IFMSA, facilitate advocacy-related workshops, and finally ensure the visibility and the inclusive participation of our IFMSA members in our external learning opportunities. In addition, in terms of the elevation of the work of IFMSA, I would like to see collaborative initiatives with other TO members, actively participate in the decision making, and finally, as a SCOF IT member, I would like to seek technical expertise to improve the monthly mental health watch to further protect the mental health and well-being of the SCOF IT and the TO, as well as work closely with the SCOF director and the SCOF IT and involve them in our external work. Finally, should I be elected as the next LPH, I will maximize the opportunity to make sure that together with you, we take the position of IFMSA as a key stakeholder to the next level. Thank you.
For your presentation, we're now going to proceed with questions for LPH candidate Omnia. If you have a question to Omnia, please raise your hand. Also, when I give you the word, make sure that your camera is turned on. Portugal, Anem, you have the floor.
Yeah, thank you so much, Omnia, for your presentation. So you mentioned the review of policy documents by alumni and externals. We would like you to elaborate a bit more about the process and the timings. For example, if it would be during the write-up of the policy document itself, or if you're also talking about reviewing actual policy documents. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Portugal. Do we have any further questions, Omnia? We still have 1 minute and 45 seconds left. Going once, going twice. Okay, thank you, everyone. We will now proceed with the next presentation. Candidate for liaison officer to sexual and reproductive health and rights, including HIV and AIDS. Candidate is named Arik Abdal Magid Muhammad Al Hassan Abbas. Okay, very long name. Thank you.
Dear IFMSA friends and family, I hope you are doing well and staying safe in these challenging times. My name is Arij from Sudan. I'm a final year medical student, very old actually, and even an older SRHR advocate. 5 years ago when I joined IFMSA, I never knew that this would be the right to form the person I am today, personally and professionally. From a very timid, shy person to an outspoken woman who is now afraid to voice her opinion about SRHR misconceptions. I'm happy and proud to share with you a glimpse about how my journey in SCORE started. I come from a background where SRHR violations, misconceptions, and wrong beliefs are widely predominant. At the same time, noticing the substantial positive impacts young medical students are doing just intensifies my desire to reflect what we do at the grassroots levels to the international and national communities. And I just thought to myself, this is what we do on national levels. How will global inclusion, full diversity, and full reflections would look like? If elected for LRA, my annual working plan next term would rely on the following pricks. Putting in mind that I should maintain the ongoing correspondences and collaboration, establish new partnerships in light of regional and global priorities, and ensuring full visibility for IFMSA NMOs as a leading youth organizations in the field of SRHR promotion. My work as LRA would be focusing on what NMO needs in terms of external representation capacity building, starting with the assessment needs for the NMOs and the IFMSA members, ensuring gender, regional and sub-regional diversity in our external representation opportunities like the small working group, the policy drafting processes and the external meetings delegation, as well encouraging regional representation in the regional summits like the FIGO, ICASA and the ESU regional summits as well. The world is constantly changing and IFMSA as a rapidly growing organization has to be at the front lines advocating for positive change, aiming to make global health more inclusive, representative, and gender equal. Gender equity was proposed as a global priority for the next term. If adopted, my work together with the SCORE-D and the VPE would be aligning the internal and external goals and their counterpart indicators of the global priority, and also ensuring full visibility for IFMSA and its strong stance for promoting the global priority through our policy briefs, documents, and our reflections of work for the partners. The third brick of my work would be focusing on following up on the already existing partnerships and memorandum of understandings, establishing new collaborations according to the global priorities, and addressing policy work and proposing new policies according to what IFMSA needs. Also, addressing the external meetings calendar for the upcoming term. Also, introducing external partners as a fixed component for the SCORE International campaign, using the platform IFMSA provides for data collection and research, example the Gender Watch, collaborating with other liaison officers for global health priorities, and also addressing external representation from an online perspective, considering what's happening in the global arena right now. Lastly, it's not my sense of accountability, reliability, or teamwork dynamics that have made me apply for LRA. It's the change that we're doing right now, considering the obstacles we're having, and thinking about the tremendous, substantial, positive impacts we're going to get with stronger stance, full support, inclusion, and meaningful youth participation. Thank you. Dear IFMSA friends.
Okay, thank you for your presentation. We're now going to proceed with questions for LRA candidate Arik. If you have a question to her, please raise your hand. Portugal, Anem, you have the floor.
Yes, thank you so much for your presentation. We would like you to please clarify on how you pretend to overcome COVID-19 consequences with regards to external affairs and cancelled events.
Thank you, Portugal. Next, we have a question from IFMSA Iraq. You have the floor.
Thank you, Arij, for your kind presentation. My question is, what are your plans regarding making your work closer to the animals, especially the NORAs? Thank you.
Thank you, Iraq. We still have a minute and 20 seconds for questions. If you have questions to Arik, please raise your hand now. Going once, twice, last chance. Okay, thank you. We'll now proceed to the next presentation for LRA, presentation by Yeva Berankite.
Hey everyone, this is me, and my name is Eva. Some of you may remember me for my caffeine addiction. Some of you may recall me as the ultimate cat person, but right now the most important part is that I am running for the liaison officer for sexual and reproductive health and rights issues, including HIV and AIDS.
But let's get serious for a second. So why should you choose me to advocate for SRHR on behalf of you and on behalf of IFMSA?
So when I was coming up with my plan of action, I asked myself 3 main questions that would guide my work as LRA in the upcoming term. So first, I asked myself, what do members need from the LRA? Secondly, I asked what kind of LRA is a good team player? And last but definitely not least, I asked how do we as IFMSA remain a strong youth leader in SRHR?
Let's begin with members. I believe that the LRA's work should be easy to understand, open to feedback, and open to participation. This can be achieved in many different ways, just a few examples being allocating specific times when members are able to ask questions directly from the LRA, gathering thoughts from members on what they actually think and expect from our external efforts in the field of SRHR, and most importantly, keeping an eye out for diverse opportunities that are both accessible and beneficial for the members themselves. For teamwork, I aim for presence, constant contact, and collaboration in all of the teams the LRA belongs to. Additionally, I would like to increase contact between the LRA, the External Affairs IT, and the SCORA IT. And finally, the external world. I must mention that with a high chance that gender equity may become our new global priority, the upcoming term will probably focus on laying groundwork for advancing IFMSA's advocacy efforts in this area. However, my main goals for leading external work stay the same. Besides seeking new ones, I would also like to evaluate the partnerships we already established. This would allow me to assess whether IFMSA's involvement could be expanded. This means that not only some meetings will be considered top priority, but also that opportunities that are constantly popping up should be evaluated and checked whether they actually align with our vision. The combination of SRHR and external meetings can definitely be daunting. Therefore, I want to take all measures possible in order to ensure that both delegations and me are fully prepared to maximize IFMSA's impact and guarantee a strong presence. I seek to revisit SRHR policy topic proposals that were not realized this term, evaluate other SRHR issues that should be addressed, and increase members' involvement in SRHR policy processes. So thank you for your consideration. For more details, please refer to my candidature or reach out to me on any platform.
Okay, I would like to elaborate that the black bar that you could see comes from Zoom. This is the administrative menu. And whenever somebody is trying to join or leave the call, I immediately get a message saying that. So it is you who is creating that black bar, you, the animals. Do we have any questions for Yeva, candidate for LRA? Please raise your hand now. Portugal, Annem, you have the floor.
Yes, thank you so much for your presentation. It is actually the same question. So could you please clarify on how you pretend to overcome COVID-19 consequences with regards to external affairs and cancelled events?
Thank you, Portugal. Next question from MSA Malawi.
Thank you for the presentation. What experience do you have on MSA Malawi? What experience do you have on SRHR external representation? And how do you plan to apply that? Thank you.
Thank you, Malawi. Next, Helmut Greece.
Thank you for the presentation. I would like to ask, how do you intend to reinforce the SCORA members to take opportunities in order to represent IFMSA in SRH issues?
Thank you, Greece. Then we have a question from Kenya Msake.
Thank you for your presentation. You mentioned that in your plan of action that you'll have a backup plan in case the COVID-19 pandemic persists. So could you elaborate on these specific plans?
Okay, thank you, Kenya. We still have 45 seconds for questions. If you would like to ask a question to Yeva, candidate for LRA, please raise your hand. Going once, going twice. Last chance. Okay, thank you, Yeva. We're now going to proceed with the next candidate, who is the first candidate for Liaison Officer for Human Rights and Peace Issues. Presentation by Mahmoud Fakri Abdul Amir. Maybe in the meantime, VPRC or anybody else aware of Zoom, how can I remove the administrative menu during presentations?
You can just shift probably to either top of the screen or the bottom of the screen.
Okay, before I start, I'm going to try doing that. I cannot hide it for sure.
No, you wouldn't want to hide it.
So it's either on the top or on the bottom of the page, but everyone has to see it. So I'm just going to put it on the top.
Can you also try one more thing? Maybe minimize your screen and then place the tab on the topmost part and then enhance the screen size to the part that remains without the bar.
IFMSA family. Let me start my presentation by answering a simple but important question.
Can you still see the black bar?
No.
Okay, perfect. Thank you very much. We're now going to start with the presentation of Mahmoud for Liaison Officer for Human Rights and Peace Issues.
Salam dear IFMSA family. Let me start my presentation by answering a simple but important question. Why am I presenting to you today? To answer this, let me take you back 1 year ago when I got a golden opportunity to attend an external meeting as part of an IFMSA delegation. I got to engage in conversations where we had the chance to learn from externals sharing their experiences and work. But we also had the chance as IFMSA to share our work. Fast forward 1 year, and as I dived further into the internal work of SCORP and IFMSA serving as SCORP director, a spark was ignited in me. I realized that IFMSA still has a huge potential that is yet to be uncovered in human rights and peace advocacy. My name is Mahmoud Al-Hammoudi, and I'm presenting my candidature for IFMSA Liaison Officer for Human Rights and Peace Issues. And I'm basing my plan of action on 3 different dimensions. The first dimension is advocacy about human rights, and this dimension is reflected through building internal and external work alignment. I will work towards this by ensuring efficient implementation and usage of our policies as guiding documents so as to lead meaningful and impactful advocacy. I will also work towards efficient prioritization and alignment of the work of the Standing Committee using global priorities as a basis. Last, I will also work to support the growth and development of the internal capacities of the Federation throughout the external work. The second pillar is advocacy for human rights, and this dimension entails empowerment and meaningful engagement. I will work towards ensuring productive and sustainable partnerships through following up upon and deploying our strategic partnerships so as to ensure internal and external works of the Federation. I will also work to promote representation opportunities as well as to promote active contributions of IFMSA to the global health arena and literature. And finally, I will work to follow up on and adapt to the regionalization in the work of our partners by collaborating with the regional teams and also by supporting our NMOs and empowering our regions. The last pillar is advocacy through human rights, and this pillar enroots human rights as a culture of work. I will work towards this by ensuring a smooth transition from my position as SCORP D to LRP if elected to ensure sustainability in the work of the Federation. I will also work to adapt to the new trends in external work and advocacy amid the COVID-19 pandemic. And last but not least, and most importantly, I will continue my commitment to work towards ensuring a human rights-based approach to IFMSA. With this vision in mind, and reflecting on my internal experience in IFMSA, I present to you today, ready and empowered to channel IFMSA's values, principles,
work, and energy externally. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for this presentation. We're now going to proceed and collect questions for LRP candidate Mahmoud. If you would like to ask a question, raise your hand now. IFMSA Brazil, you have the floor.
During this term, we had two global priorities directly related to SCORP that couldn't get many achievements. In face of the rising inequities that have been intensified by the pandemic, what would be your strategies to actively tackle this problem and fulfill our external goals of the new priorities in this scenario of limited opportunities of external events?
Thank you, IFMSA Brazil. Next, a question from Associated Tunisia.
Hello, this is Luda from Associated Tunisia. Thank you so much for your presentation. Actually, I have two questions. How do you intend to bring the external work closer to general members, and what are your strategies to engage them in the elaboration of policymaking documents? Thank you.
Thank you, Tunisia. Next, we have a question from Medicine Sudan.
Thank you, Mahmoud, for your presentation. In your candidature, you talked about building new partnerships. We'd just like to know what opportunities these new partnerships would provide to the members that the existing partnerships do not. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. We still have almost a minute left for further questions. If you'd like to ask a question to the LRP candidate, please raise your hand. I'm Cici Denmark.
Yes, hello. Thank you for your presentation. If you get elected, you will be doing both a handover and receiving a handover. So how do you plan to make time for both?
Thank you, Denmark. Still 30 seconds left for questions. If you would like to ask a question to Mahmoud, please raise your hand. Last chance. Okay, thank you, everyone. Make sure that you copy-paste your questions into the chat. Now we're going to proceed with the presentation by the second candidate for liaison officer for human rights and peace issues. Presentation by Nada Bouazizi.
I hated that dull, sterile windowless room. The smell of ether was suffocating. My hands were cold. The faded blue sofa was covered with a thin layer of dust. And there I sat patiently waiting on an indifferent attendant to run the report on my medical test. Words cannot convey how helpless I felt as I read the report. I had Stage 4 cancer, 6 months to live. The bile in my stomach turned to acid. I felt like an innocent young woman, wrongly arrested, wrongly convicted, who'd just been handed a sentence of death by torture. The only solace they could offer was a surgical procedure to numb the pain I would endure and perhaps prolong my life a few weeks. My first thought was to decline the operation. After all, if death is inevitable, why prolong the agony? But when they told me about the searing pain I would endure without it, I reluctantly agreed to the operation. The day after the procedure, I awoke in a haze. Everything looked fuzzy when I opened my eyes. I momentarily forgot where I was and why I was there until outline of the dark and dank hospital room gradually came into focus. Feeling a presence in the room, I turned toward the doctor standing nearby. There was a mistake on your cancer test, he said. You don't have cancer, you're gonna be fine, you're gonna be home soon. The tears that I have shed in sorrow became tears of joy, knowing that I would have a life to live, a chance to fulfill my passion and do what my Creator put me on earth to do. Being the LRP is an opportunity to help those who have never received the gift I got. those who live without hope, unable to escape to the yoke of bondage, hunger, disease, the victims of human trafficking and repression. To be voice for the voiceless, a source of hope for the weary, a source of inspiration to others who can help advance the cause of human freedom, access to health care, better nutrition, dignity for the vulnerable and helpless, the world seems content to ignore and leave behind. Few will ever ride that emotional roller coaster I endured as a 21-year-old woman who lost all hope only to be offered a second chance in life. Perhaps it was my maker's way of instilling the passion I now feel to give hope to those who live without. I would appreciate the opportunity to serve as LRP.
Okay, thank you for your presentation. We're now going to proceed to questions for LRP candidate Nada. If you have questions for her, please raise your hand now. IFMSA India, you have the floor.
Thanks for your presentation. My question is, you've laid a lot of emphasis on your NMO work through your candidature, and I wanted to know what are your plans on using your NMO experience and how do you plan on elevating it to help you as the LRP if elected? Thank you.
Thank you, India. Next, we have Medicine Sudan.
Thank you, Nada, for the presentation. We just wanted to know which global priorities you'll be working on a national and local level, and what possible partners would you try to seek during your term? Thank you.
Thank you, Sudan. Next question from Rwanda, Metzar.
Thank you. I want to ask what will be your two main priorities in case COVID-19 pandemic persists? Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Rwanda. Then a question from PMSA Palestine. You have the floor.
Nada, in your candidature, you mentioned several times the leading from feminine aspect of your application. Could you elaborate a bit more on it? Thank you.
Thank you, Palestine. Then IFMSA Greece, you have the floor.
Thank you. I would like to ask, how do you plan to engage members in the external affairs of SCORP?
Thank you, IFMSA. One last question. This is going to be from IFMSA Honduras. You have the floor.
IFMSA Honduras, thank you. Can you elaborate more on your two main pillars for your external work?
Okay, thank you. If you have additional questions for this candidate, please make sure that you send it directly to them or by email to the NMO server. We have a point of information from FMS Taiwan. FMS, you have the floor.
FMS Taiwan. We are amazed by the video quality, and just in case of GDPR, can we have the confirmation that this candidature video contains no copyright clips or videos components? Thank you.
Interesting point of information. VPPRC, would you like to comment on this topic? Vice President for Public Relations and Communication, or any other EB member, or perhaps even the SIPCO. Would anybody like to comment on the topic that FMS Taiwan brought up? Okay, FMS Taiwan, VPA, you have the floor.
Yeah, thank you so much. Currently, BPPRC is unable to join us, but we will consult with EB and update later. Thank you.
Okay, and FMS Taiwan, I would also like to ask you, please send this question to the NMO server for continuing it.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Now we're going to proceed with the next presentation. We're starting with the presentations for liaison officers to the World Health Organization. First, we're going to start with the presentation by Iris Martin Bloom.
My name is Iris Blom. I'm a fifth-year medical student at the University of Amsterdam with a master's degree in global affairs from Tsinghua University in China. I've been active in IFMSA for 6 years and I'm a passionate global health advocate. 2020 has shown that health, when urgently threatened, gains priority. It has also exposed health inequalities and people being left behind. A new tomorrow is surging and presenting us with new challenges and opportunities. I dream of a tomorrow in which every person has access to quality healthcare and no one is left behind. I dream of a tomorrow in which young voices contribute to the design, implementation, and evaluation of policies and governance. A reality where all voices are included, not just those who speak the loudest. I dream of a reality where young people contribute meaningfully to decision-making, impacting their present and future. I dream of this tomorrow, today. We live in a period of fast change, and it is imperative that we, as a federation, build on our strengths whilst interacting with current events through innovation. To ensure our voices are meaningfully included in the design of our future and the future of global health governance in the current political climate and through the WHO reformation, I will work together with other civil society organizations and our partners at the WHO in cooperation with the VPE and all LOs. To ensure the meaningful inclusion of all voices, a new coordinator of diversity and inclusion will work specifically on this topic to ensure inclusion before, during, and after events, including reducing financial barriers. In order to reach further sustainable impact, together with RDs, we can streamline our advocacy efforts at WHO meetings. To increase our members' and NMO's capacity, internship opportunities will be increased and improved. Members will be connected through webinars, WHO consultations, WHO research and education opportunities like the GAP research project I'm currently part of, training sessions at GAs, and overall approachability and support. And I aim to work with NMOs by expanding the youth delegate database and creating a toolkit to connect with WHO country offices. In conclusion, I have extensive experience in research, advocacy, and leadership in many different global health areas. I've learned and developed myself into a globally minded citizen, team worker, communicator, organizer, advocate, and connector. I have developed knowledge and understanding in many areas of global health, especially useful for the broad position of LWHO. My experience with advocacy on an international level will aid me in connecting with important actors. I'm honored to be considered your candidate for the position of LWHO. Together, let's design our dream for tomorrow. My name.
Okay, thank you for this presentation. We're now going to proceed with questions to LWHO candidate Iris. If you would like to ask a question to Iris, please raise your hand. Portugal, Anne.
Yeah, thank you so much, Iris, for your presentation. Actually, I have two questions. The first one we would like you to elaborate more on the advocacy working groups. And the second one would be regarding the implementation of youth delegate programs across NMOs. We would like you to elaborate more on how do you intend to help NMOs with this particular topic.
Thank you, Portugal. Before we proceed, I would like to remind India, Tunisia, Honduras, Romania, the questions to the previous candidate have not been pasted into the chat. Make sure that you do that right now. And this is a reminder to all future individuals asking questions. Now, moving forward to the next question by NIMSA Nigeria. You have the floor.
Thank you very much, Iris, for your presentation. Now, we are aware that there were two more partners that the IFMSA got this year to sponsor medical students and the delegates to World Health Assembly. Now, I wanted to ask if you are planning to have more, what the potential partners you are planning to approach for more sponsorship opportunities to the World Health Assembly, especially for delegates from low and middle income countries. Thank you.
Thank you, Nimsa. Then a question by IFMSA Pakistan. You have the floor.
Lise, IFMSA Pakistan. I would like to ask, how would you ensure equitable representation and equal participation from all regions? Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Then a question by IFMSA Brazil.
Thank you, Iris, for your presentation. Could you elaborate more on what are your concrete plans to increase the diversity and accessibility on the pre-WHA delegation, and how do you think you could collaborate with the other LOs and make this be reflected for other IFMSA delegations?
Thank you, IFMSA Brazil. Then a question by FMS Taiwan.
FMS Taiwan, thank you for your presentation. After watching your video, it comes to our mind that there were some questionings regarding WHO in its leadership and governance. As a representative of IFMSA to WHO meetings, what role do you think IFMSA has in this, and how would you like to do to ensure non-state actors like IFMSA can have a meaningful and positive impact on this issue? Thank you.
Thank you, Taiwan. That's all the time that we have for the questions. Therefore, we're going to proceed with the next candidate's presentation, also for LWHO. The presentation is by Mindaugas Galvosas.
Dear friends, I hope you read my candidature package. My name is Mindaugas Galvosas and I welcome you to the presentation of my candidature to the liaison officer to WHO for the term 2021. Let's start with a few notes about me. I'm a 6th-year medical student from Limsa, Lithuania, the pre-WHO Youth Forum 2020 OC member, IFMSA External Affairs General Assistant, also experienced IFMSA delegate to 3 World Health Organization meetings, co-initiator of the Lithuanian Youth Delegate Program to the WHO meetings, ex-IFMSA's Co-Mayor for Europe, moreover, passionate about youth engagement and meaningful participation, technology, and international affairs. Finally, I'm ready to work for IFMSA and help its members. Why here? Excited to tell you. Meaningful youth participation and, importantly, engagement are clearly underdeveloped and lacking in response to many situations, current pandemic being one of them. Another one, lack of consensus on the recent high-level political forum ministerial declaration, the main political outcome of the meeting that was meant to review SDGs. Being collaborative, highlighting the engagement, and serving as a bridge in building partnerships are just a few values I'm seeking for. There is a need to question people in positions on accountability and youth, search, develop, and promote more opportunities of engagement for IFMSA and for you. I'm here to succeed in it. Next, how do I envision IFMSA in action? Together, we can take big steps with the delegations to the WHO meetings to upscale IFMSA stances in statements and interventions. Broadening partnerships and representation of civil society in WHO meetings can have us, the oldest and biggest youth-led organization, leading the way. Pitching and organizing student-led side events would be the cherry on the cake. I'm ready to welcome you to the biggest and fully externally oriented IFMSA capacity building event, the pre-WHA next year. OC and partner selection, advocacy working groups, and measuring the impact of the delegation would be the key priorities of mine in the preparations, during, and following up the event. Cooperation with the relevant stakeholders and mobilizing resources, having IFMSA speakers throughout the year, and more financial grants would support all IFMSA members. When it comes to everyone, I will promote youth delegate programs, have manuals and resources on WHO issues, grant access to side events, and further develop youth constituency. And I have a number of other initiatives to be a valuable team member in the TO and never leave the team's well-being behind. As simple and efficient as that. Please reach out to me with your input and questions, and thank you for your time.
Okay, thank you for your presentation. Now we're going to proceed with questions to LWHO candidate Mindaugas. If you would like to ask a question, raise your hand now and feel free to start your camera. Msaki, Kenya, you have the floor.
Thank you for your presentation. I have a question. Msaki, Kenya, how do you plan to ensure equal representation in WHO activities from all the IFMSA regions? Thank you.
Thank you, Kenya. Next, Anna in Portugal. Portugal, you have the floor.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, so I have the same question for Iris as it was for Iris regarding youth delegate program. So regarding the implementation of the youth delegate program, how do you intend to help us as NMOs to implement it in our own country? Thank you.
Thank you, Portugal. Then Sims Indonesia.
Okay, thank you for your presentation. I'm Ori from CIMSA Indonesia. Could you please elaborate more about the annual pre-World Health Assembly Hackathon and how do you plan to manage it in this pandemic? Thank you.
Thank you, Simsa. Then a question from Hong Kong, Amsak.
Hi, yeah, thank you for your presentation. So I just wanted to ask that as liaison to the WHO, there may be occasions when our opinions on certain health issues as medical students may clash with the official stance of the WHO. So how will you ensure that our voice is heard by the WHO without affecting our partnership with them? Thank you.
Thank you, Hong Kong. Time for the last question. IFMSA India, you have the floor.
Thanks for the presentation, it was a lovely one. The question, partially our question has been asked by in Portugal, but the latter half of the question is a lot of countries within AP and also I'm sure in other regions have a lot of difficulty in getting in touch or keeping or maintaining sustained collaborations with WHO regional and national offices. Do you have any strategies in mind to help NMOs bridging that gap and strengthening their ties? Thank you.
Okay, thank you, India. Now we're going to proceed with the next presentation, which is for the last position from the liaison officers. This is the liaison officer to student organizations. We have one candidate, and we're going to show the presentation by Niambura Muroki. And again, I would like to remind everyone, make sure that you post your questions into the chat of Zoom so that they can be written in the minutes as well as sent to the candidates. Thank you.
Dear IFMSA family, I am excited to present to you my candidature for the position of Liaison Officer to Student Organizations. Since I joined IFMSA 3 years ago, I have grown into a bold, courageous, and capable leader. I have served at every level as a local public health officer and national public health officer, and IFMSA intern at the World Medical Association, and currently serve as a development assistant for Africa. I have seen the ability and power of our medical students to transform their communities through building capacity, concerted action against health inequity, and speaking truth to power. These local efforts all feed into the global pursuit to achieve SDGs by 2030. I am greatly inspired by the meaningful contribution of NMOs, and my vision is for IFMSA to be the youth voice in global health and engage in advocacy at the highest level. This is what motivates me to run for the position of LOZO. My plan of action is three-pronged. 1, to build strong networks with student and youth-led organizations. Now more than ever, COVID-19 has shown us the importance of interprofessional collaborations. In my time as LOZO, I would seek to strengthen our existing partnerships with organizations such as ICYMO, IFISO, and the WHSA. I will also create new partnerships with organizations such as ISEC and the Erasmus Students Network. I will ensure that every single member of IFMSA benefits from these partnerships, which brings me to my second idea. To entrench collaboration at all levels of IFMSA. As the DA for Africa, I attended the IFMSA GA. This partnership led to a series of joint impactful activities. I will replicate campaigns and collaborations like these at all regional levels through IFMSA, AMSA, PMSA, and FELTSOSM. Nationally, I will work with NMOs to build alliances with chapters of IBSA, IADS, and IPSF. At the standing committee level, I will work to implement the One Health workshop into professional education campaigns, as well as the joint exchanges with vet and dental students. Finally, I will ensure smooth continuity of all AMR activities, particularly Innovate for AMR and the WOW campaign. In my term, IFMSA will take a lead on AMR education amongst healthcare students as we convene a youth summit and explore new frontiers in AMR stewardship. I will also build and maintain strong partnerships with ICMID, ISID, as well as REACT, and seek to strengthen our potential partnerships with Gavi as well as other organizations in the context of communicable diseases. I invite you to read my candidature and look forward to interacting with all of you. Thank you. Dear IFM, excited to present to you my candidature.
Okay, thank you. Now we're going to proceed to questions for the liaison officer to student organizations candidate, Nyambura. If you have a question, please raise your hand now. Helms agrees, you have the floor.
Thank you. I would like to ask which are your more specific goals concerning the collaboration with IFMSA and with ESN?
Thank you, Helmzik. Then we have a question from Medicine Sudan.
Thank you, Nyambura, for your presentation. We'd like for you to further elaborate how you plan on implementing the global priorities. Thank you.
Thank you, Medicine. We still have a minute and a half left. If you have a question to the LOZO candidate, please raise your hand. Going once, going twice. Last chance. Okay, thank you. With that, we conclude the presentations for candidates for official IFMSA team official positions. Now we're going to proceed with the next point in the agenda, which is presentation of candidatures for the IFMSA Supervising Council 2018-2020. Here we have not received any applications, therefore no presentations are going to be shown. Then agenda point 28, presentation of candidatures for the IFMSA Supervising Council 2019-2021. We have received one presentation by the only candidate, who is Nebosha Nikolic. Now going to show the presentation.
Dear IFMSA members, it is quite strange to be looking at the camera knowing that I will appear in thousands of screens in your homes across the world. My past experiences involved magnificent sights of hundreds of members of IFMSA in front of me, waiting to hear my thoughts and ideas for the organization we love so much. This shows to me that no matter what we see, no matter what we do or hear, we just never stop growing. In an organization the magnitude of IFMSA, every day is simply one of a kind. Throughout my time here, I often thought, I can't possibly do anything more. I'm here at my limits. But then later on, I would think, I just had to say it, didn't I? I went from simply wanting to meet more amazing people around the world, to helping others achieve the same goals that I wanted, to supporting the organization of the largest meetings in IFMSA, to finally being the one that doesn't think someone needs to pick up the mic and start this, but the one that gets to stand up and do this. These small moments when you identify yourself with the task and the role that you currently have are some of the most satisfying moments during your term. Or other than these small moments, I've been in many more situations during the nearly 2.5 years of preparing for or being in a leadership position in IFMSA. Moments pass in the blink of an eye, and at the end of the day I see a list of tasks that I did, like copyrights, debates, website, archive, brand, but also the fun things like roll call, parties, karaoke. but in the end, bylaws, finances, secretariat, code of conduct, organization of the largest meetings in IFMSA, pandemic impact on IFMSA are some of the many areas I have in-depth knowledge about. I didn't get to this point alone. Over the years since 2014, I looked up to many people for advice and support. As I advanced, the circle of people asking me for support grew ever larger, while the circle I was asking grew ever smaller, even though, even at the highest heights, this is still essential. This gradual progression prepared me to take on the role of supporting the future work and ideas in IFMSA. My passion changed as I changed over the years, but its core, my desire to see the change in IFMSA that I see in myself, did not. I want to leave my experience and knowledge that I gained easily within reach to anyone in IFMSA. I will leave you with my favorite quote of IFMSA's late first president about what he remembered the most about IFMSA. The quote, "The readiness of people to push other concerns aside, roll up their sleeves, and get cracking at solving all the little practical problems associated with moving fellow medical students around the world in a purposeful way." My name is Nebisha Nikolic, applying for the Supervising Council for the term 2019-21, and there to help IFMSA as you all get cracking at the new challenges in the next year. Thank you, stay safe, and enjoy the OGA.
Okay, thank you for the presentation. Now we're going to proceed to questions to subco candidate for 2019-2021, Nebosha. If you have a question for him, please raise your hand now. BVMD Germany, you have the floor.
Yes, Lucas from BVMD Germany. Thank you for your application. We really appreciate also your candidature. And our question is, you apply for a subco term in which you would evaluate the financial transactions of your own EB. Why did you decide to run for this specific term, and how do you want to handle this conflict of interest in your work? Thank you.
Thank you, BVMG. Then question from FMS Taiwan.
FMS Taiwan. As an experienced IFMSA member of CCC, VPA, and president, we would like to know how, as a future subco member, want to help CCC to ensure the consistency internally if elected. Thank you.
Okay, then a question by AMSA Australia. You have the floor.
Hello, thank you, Nebosha, for all your work this year. So as a candidate for the Supervising Council, in your candidature form, you mentioned that one of the roles of the subco will be being critical of the work done in IFMSA. So in your prior engagement at IFMSA, I have no doubt you would have formed a lot of meaningful relationships with other people within the organization. How do you plan on managing these potential personal conflicts of interest when you are in your advisory capacity? Thank you.
Thank you, AMSA. We still have questions for about 20 seconds. If you'd like to ask a question to Nebosha, please raise your hand now. Going once, going twice. Okay, thank you for all of your questions. Make sure that you write them down in the chat. This is also a reminder to Sudan Medicine to write their question regarding the LOZO from the last part. Okay, with that, we conclude this point in the agenda as well. We move forward to the last point in the agenda for today, which is presentation of candidatures for the Supervising Council 2020 to 2022. We have received 4 applications. We're going to start alphabetically with the presentation by Elina Ozzi.
Peter, please start this presentation from the 5th second too.
Thank you very much, Plenary Secretary.
Colleagues, co-workers, supporters, and role models, because that is exactly what IFMSA is to me. My name is Elina Ozzi, and this is my candidature for IFMSA Supervising Council 2020 to 2022. My career in IFMSA started as the neo-nori of SMSA. continuing on to Scope International team for 2 consecutive terms, serving as the Scope General Assistant. In addition to that, I have served as the co-head of delegation for Estonian delegations in the last 3 years in almost all of the international meetings. Through that experience, I am ready to sidestep the more active roles that I have served until now and step into the more advisory role of a SUBCO member. Hereby, I present my candidature. I see the Supervising Council as one entity that consists of multiple people with different experiences and perspectives. I hope to bring a straightforward, down-to-earth, and fresh perspective to the work of SUBCO. My experience in a very active IT for the 2 consecutive terms allows me to bring a more standing committee-centered perspective to the work of SUBCO. My candidature is built around my 4 core values: transparency, responsibility, approachability, and availability. One of my main core values is transparency. The work of SUBCO must be impartial, efficient, done in a timely manner, but also transparent. I aim to find the balance between the necessary privacy and transparency in all my tasks as a SUBCO member. The work of SUBCO carries a big responsibility that I am ready to take. As a SUBCO member, I will not sidestep responsibility or difficult situations, and I aim to solve them as diligently as possible. If someone approaches the SUBCO, it doesn't always mean an investigation. This is a sentence that was said to me after quite some time in the Federation, and actually it was quite eye-opening for me. Approachability can be a big issue for the SUBCO, and it shouldn't have that context behind that. Situations that might end up in an investigation should be interfered before that point is reached. As I am no longer a medical student, I am in charge of my own schedule, and I aim to be as available as necessary, both for online and face-to-face meetings. I aim to be as available for my TO buddies as necessary, and I hope to have regular online meetings with them. I believe that face-to-face meetings are of essence. As I also mentioned in my candidature, in addition to the TO and EB, I also aim to support the international assistance. I hope to find proper, regular, and transparent feedback mechanisms that also include the international assistance. SUBCO is the storyteller of IFMSA. It provides context, history, and background to the discussions and decision-making process. And I really do love a good story. I hope you will consider my candidature for IFMSA SUBCO. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for your presentation. We're now going to proceed with collecting questions for Elena. If you would like to ask a question to SUBCO candidate Elena, please raise your hand now. Any questions? FMS Taiwan, you have the floor.
FMS Taiwan, you mentioned transparency in SUBCO, however, dealing with all the sensitive topics, how would you reach that and protect people? Thank you.
Thank you, Taiwan. Next, we have a question from Medicine Sudan.
Thank you for your presentation. Looking through your CV, we noticed that you didn't have a lot of experience with the Constitution and bylaws. So how would you plan on bridging this potential gap? Thank you.
Thank you, Medicine. We still have 1 minute and 40 seconds left. If you have an additional question for Elena, please raise your hand now. Last chance to ask a question to Elena. IFMSA Guatemala, you have the floor.
Thanks for the presentation. Can you define your functions as SUBCO?
If I understood correctly, how do you define your function as SUBCO? Is that the question, Guatemala?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Any last questions? Okay, thank you very much. We're now going to proceed to the presentation of the next candidate for the same position, El Tahir Abdel Rahman Abdel Rahim. Make sure that you submit the questions that you asked in the chat. Please do not forget to do that.
Dear IFMSA family, I'm delighted to present my candidature, standing grateful for the opportunities I've had to serve the Federation. IFMSA has had a major influence on my life, and I've learned and gained more from it than I could have imagined. I'm a 27 years old junior medical doctor from Khartoum, Sudan. I'm a passionate public health advocate, and I'm currently working as a medical officer in Sudan Cardiology Tertiary Center. My venture in IFMSA started almost 7 years ago when I walked into Medicine Sudan and realized that there are more roles to play as a medical student. I found my peers who were enthusiastic and willing to take action. It then pushed me to participate in one of the turning points in my life, the IFMSA March meeting in Turkey 2015. Walking between the past and present, I've attended the most drastic reforms of the IFMSA, and I still find it committed even more to its values while achieving its mission. I believe that the past years helped me to harness my organizational and teamwork skills, and I feel more than ready to execute and give my best again for our dear Federation. Working in IFMSA as an NMO president and a member of several committees, in addition to my professional experience in governmental and non-governmental organizations, by joining the Supervising Council, I hope that I will be able to give a new perspective as both a clinician and a public health practitioner. If I were to be elected, I will devote myself to the position and the IFMSA's work and values, together with the EBTOs, SUBCO, and the NMOs, illustrating professionalism by keeping autonomy and boundaries, be aware of my personal limitations, and continuously develop, and always having the best interest according to the IFMSA values. In the light of the tasks, I would like to focus on the following points: adhering to my core values and let them guide me through my roles, putting in mind task division and team spirit, drawing back from experience ever since the IFMSA reform almost 5 years ago and using that to serve in the best interest of the Federation, addressing internal regulations and providing recommendations to reinforce their role in achieving IFMSA objectives, with a special attention to both standing committees and regional regulation, working on finding a way to reinforce and regulate capacity building IUGs and code of conduct. For me, IFMSA will always be a space where medical students get to prosper and expand the limits of their potentials. I conclude by quoting the great Mahatma Gandhi: "The best way to find yourself is to lose yourself in the service of others." Thank you for considering my candidature for the Supervising Council of the IFMSA. Dear IFMSA family, I'm delighted to present my candidature, standing grateful for the opportunities I've had to serve the.
Okay. Now we're going to proceed to questions for candidate for the SUBCO for the next term, Euta here. If you have a question, please raise your hand now. IFMSA India, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. Purva, IFMSA India. Thank you for the presentation. I just noted on the presentation that it says you served as an NMO president for 2 terms, 2017-18 and 2018-19, although I recollect it to be longer. And if you've missed this information by any chance, can you elaborate on why it's not on your candidature? And of course, I apologize if my recollection is failing me. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, India. We still have 1 minute and 35 seconds left. Does anybody have a question to Euta here? You can raise your hand now. IFMSA Australia, you have the floor.
Thank you for your presentation. I think it's very humbling and very commendable that you mentioned that you will be aware of your personal limitations as you address some of the work that the SUBCO will be doing. A lot of these work will be quite sensitive, and I'm aware that a lot of these conversations are rather tough in nature. So my question will be, what personal limitations do you think you have, and how do you plan on addressing them? Thank you.
Thank you, IFMSA. We still have time for additional questions. Raise your hand. This is concerning the Supervising Council for the next term. If you would like to ask a question, please raise your hand. Last chance. Okay, thank you. Then we're going to proceed with the presentation by the next candidate for the same position, Konstantinos Theokaris.
Dear IFMSA family, my name is Konstantinos Theokaris. I am a 6th-year medical student from IMSB, Bulgaria, and today
I'm going to stop. I need to use the other media option.
Dear IFMSA family, my name is Konstantinos Theokaris. I am a 6th-year medical student from IMSB, Bulgaria, and today I will be presenting you my candidature for Supervising Council member for the term 2020-2022. My journey started 4 years ago in my local committee, and since then I had the opportunity to attend 4 general assemblies, 1 team of official meetings, and several other events. This term I am serving as the NMO President of IMSB Bulgaria, but also as the Development Assistant for Capacity Building for IFMSA. These experiences and work have given me the opportunity to understand the importance of the Supervising Council and how it should be functioning. This is why I prioritize these values for the following term for my work. As you all know, the tasks of the Supervising Council are pretty fixed from the Constitution and bylaws, but I plan to work with my fellow SAPCO members if elected in order to go beyond that, as we always do within the IFMSA. For the Executive Board and the team of officials, I plan to focus on advising them and supervising their work through the whole term in our meetings and in the TO SAPCO body group system that we have. For the reporting, I will ensure that they are clear, transparent, and frequent, and I will encourage and help the rest of the TO to do the same. My work outside of IFMSA regarding finances and accounting will give me the tools that I need in order to provide concrete advice to the EP in case they need any help with financing, reporting, and documentation. For the General Assemblies, I want to and plan to be there for the Executive Board and the NMO host in case any difficulties appeared. Regarding the Financial Committee, I want to ensure that the selected members are capable and they know clearly their tasks and how they need to work and provide them with any assistance they need. For the CCC during the General Assembly, I want to be a contact person where they can turn to if they need any help. And finally, for our general tasks, I want our individual work within the SAPCO to be clear and everything to be followed up properly. I want to be approachable for all the NMOs and all the members in case they have any concerns or if they need to discuss something or they want clarifications. And I want to work with my fellow SAPCO members in order to develop not only our SAPCO work, but also a way to assist the TO not only with their work, but also with their mental health and any issues they may have during the term. Thank you very much for your attention, and please feel free to contact me via email in case you have any questions or if you want any clarifications regarding my candidature.
Okay, thank you for your presentation. We're now going to proceed with questions for SAPCO candidate Konstantinos. If you have a question, please raise your hand now. AMS Australia, you have the floor.
Thank you, Konstantinos, for putting yourself out there. We think you have a lot of really great visions when it comes to supervising, advising EP decisions, monitoring, and keeping everyone accountable. Our question is, how would you manage the fine line between keeping everyone accountable and micromanagement? Thank you.
Thank you, Amsa. Next question by Medicine Sudan. You have the floor.
Thank you, Consta, for the presentation. So we noted that you don't have a lot of experience within IFMSA General Assemblies and 1 year experience as NMO President and Capacity Building Developmental Assistant. So what experience do you have to further pursue the task of the subco member? And also, what experience do you have in terms of the IFMSA finances? Thank you.
Thank you. We still have a minute left for questions to Konstantinos. If you have a question, raise your hand now. Last chance. Okay, thank you. We're going to proceed with questions, with the presentation of the last candidate for the SUBCO 2020-2022 position, where we have actually 4 positions. The presentation is by James Omid Yanani.
Dear IFMSA family, I'm speaking to you at what I know is an increasingly challenging time, a time of disruption in our life that has brought enormous change to the daily life of all of us. Families have lost their loved ones. Millions of jobs and livelihoods are gone. The health systems are under enormous strain worldwide. Now, more than ever, IFMSA and its NMOs has an important role to be there and help the society, something they have done greatly the past 69 years, and hopefully many more years. My name is James Janani, and today I'm happy to stand in front of you to present my candidature for the Supervising Council for the term 2020-2022. The past 6 years, I've come to experience IFMSA from very different perspectives, such as working within 3 international teams, being present at 10 GAs, 11 SRTs, and worked with the Financial Committee twice. I've also been part of the Code of Conduct Committee and shared several plenaries within the Federation. Outside the Federation, I've gotten the chance to work full-time with accounting and finances, and I've also been the coordinator for the Youth NGO Training Network. I've gotten the chance to grow and to learn from my past to improve my future. I learned a lot throughout my different positions, but most importantly, I learned to listen and to think before to speak, to not listen with the intent to reply, but with the intent to really understand the matter. The role of the subco should not be to innovate the Federation. With that said, the subco and the Federation has areas which can benefit from development, and my plan of action tries to tackle that combined with the regulated work of the subco. My 4 focus areas are ensuring that the regulated task in the position is executed and that the subco is there to mediate and provide constructive feedback during the entire term. Working with the officials by dedicating time at TOMS and offer webinars with professionals and offer low threshold for communication. Developing the Financial Committee and working on the Standing Committee and regional regulations and ensuring that the subco report is submitted well in advance before the pre-GAs to ensure that animals have time to read it and realistically come up with questions. Working on developing the internal structures and ensuring that the work of the subco is not just transparent towards the TO, but also the NMOs. Our Federation has given millions of students worldwide the possibility of developing themselves and giving back to the community. Although COVID-19 has disrupted our life, it also presents an opportunity to slow down, to pause, and to reflect why we're doing what we do. The best way to predict the future is to create it. And today I ask you to trust me to be part of the IFMSA Supervising Council. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you for the presentation. We're now going to proceed to ask questions to candidate for the SUBCO 2020-2022, James. If you have a question for James, please raise your hand now. We're looking for questions for the last candidate for the SUBCO for next term. Going once, going twice. Questions? Okay. And with that, we conclude the last presentation for today, as well as the last point in the agenda. Now, I'm going to open a speakers list. If anybody would like to give a statement, ask questions, provide clarifications, you would have the opportunity to do that. Plenary secretary or secretary assistants, please make sure that you're taking the minutes properly. So opening the speakers list with PMSA Palestine in the first place, then IFMSA Supervisory Council Satria in the second. Anybody else? IFMSA President as the third person. Okay, and then I'm going to finish up with several reminders for the next several days. So, PMSA Palestine, you have the floor.
Dear IFMSA family, as per Panama's presentation, it illustrated that the IFMSA General Assembly held in 1961 was held in Jerusalem, Israel. We would like to clarify that according to international laws and history, Jerusalem/Al-Quds has always been and still remains the capital city of Palestine, and the reason it's located behind the segregation wall currently is due to the internationally unrecognized annexation of the city in 1967, according to the United Nations Security Council Resolution 478, adopted on the 20th of August in 1980. This is a very sensitive case for us and all of our region, as it touches the very essence of Palestine's existence. We are aware that the IFMSA website states that it's been held in that location, and would like to clarify that this piece of information is misleading. We are also aware that the IFMSA is a non-political organization and still cherish and advocate for that pillar in the organization. We, however, believe in the importance of clarifying such an issue, as we consider it crucial to preserve Jerusalem/Al-Quds as the common patrimony of humanity and as a place of encounter and as a center of peaceful coexistence, where mutual respect and dialogue can be cultivated. In conclusion, we understand that IFMSA Panama elaborated this amazing presentation without meaning any harm, but it is a fundamental question for us as an entity that represents more than 1,000 students. In conclusion, we wish IFMSA Panama the best of luck in their applications as the official hosts of the August meeting 2021. Thank you. This is a joint statement. Do I state all of the animals who have participated? Peter?
Okay, all the animals that support this statement, please raise your hand. Turkmenistan, Turkey, QMSA Qatar, IFMSA Thailand, STMSA Estonia, IX Catalonia, IFMSA Iraq, IFMSA Egypt, Associate Tunisia, BVMD Germany, Northern Cyprus, CUMSA Kuwait, AMMEF Mexico, AEM Burkina Faso, IFMSA Bolivia, ANEM Portugal, IFMSA Peru, just a second, IFMSA Pakistan, Algeria Lusuk, IMSA Iran, Azerbaijan Azer MDS, DENEM Brazil, IFMSA Spain, GMSA Georgia, CISM Italy, IFMSA Brazil, IFMSA Paraguay, United Kingdom, EMSA India, LEMSIC Lebanon, LIMSA Lithuania, BEMSA Belgium, MMSA Malta, IMCC Denmark, WAMSA Latvia, IFMSA South Africa, MSA Malawi, AMSA Philippines, MEDSCO Oman, IFMSA Jordan, IFMSA Sweden, IFMSA Quebec, IFMSA Morocco, FMS Taiwan, AMSA Austria, Republic of Moldova, IFMSA Serbia, GAMSA Gambia, and Republic of Northern Macedonia, and MSA. Okay, it is the responsibility of the person who gave the statement, in this case PMSA. Please make sure that you collect the names of all the animals so that you can send them to the plenary secretary, who is going to include them into the minutes. Okay, PMSA, also make sure that you send your statement to plenary secretary and secretary/team@ifmsa.org. Now we're going to proceed with the next person in the speakers list. IFMSA Subco, Satria, you have the floor.
Thank you, Petar. IFMSA Subco, Satwin Shaban. The Subco would like to invite IFMS Taiwan or any other NMOs to please formally send the question on copyright over the server, as we believe it's an important question and Subco will be discussing it internally before we respond. Additionally, while already late, we urge the NMOs and individuals within those NMOs to always pay attention to content produced by their members or by themselves to make sure that it does not contain any copyrighted materials. Recalling that IFMSA and its members have had brushes with similar issues in the past and would very much prefer to avoid it in the future. This is made even more important in this GA by the fact that this meeting is live streamed to the public in a public capacity over our YouTube channel. And so any breaches may have more dire consequences than if it was a closed meeting with specific amounts of people watching. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, IFMSA Subco. Next, we have the IFMSA President. You have the floor.
Thank you. Can you hear me well? Okay. Dear NMOs, we would like to invite everyone to inform everyone about an issue that was brought up to our attention yesterday during the AM21 candidate presentations and the actions that were taken. What should have been a trip down the memory lane of where past anniversaries of IFMSA opened, instead a big discussion over political matters, which at any point was not the goal of the candidate nor the IFMSA. The presentation showcased information available at the IFMSA webpage related to where past General Assembly meetings of IFMSA were held. We are not aware of the last time the list was updated in its entirety, or if possible political statements were ever considered with the phrasing. The current methodology for issuing document certificates invitations uses the city, country system of where the GA is held. In the majority of cases, this system is sufficient and doesn't cause issues. However, it is troublesome in situations where there are political or other disputes. The system had been in place for a very long time. In recent years, it was problematic for the EB 1819 to issue documents related to AM19 due to the situation with WHO and naming of the NMOs following the recognition of the countries according to the United Nations. As this is also not appropriate for our NMO, the EB then decided to omit using the country and just using the name of the city. We observed to the past GE's host list that this was also done in one situation. We also looked further into a few old documents of IFMSA. We deduced with this preliminary look that this information was never brought up in such a spotlight in the past 50 years since the time until when the concerned General Assembly meeting took place, as it was now, so it has remained unobserved for a very long time. We have taken down the relevant pages until the page reflects the following information: city/country or city, depending on whether or not there is a dispute IFMSA will not go into. We are also exploring the possibility of having the hosting NMOs mentioned rather than countries at all. We would like to thank the members that have brought this issue up to our attention. The information publicly shared by IFMSA now has been altered to be reflective of the views of IFMSA to the best of our ability in the last 24 hours. IFMSA is a non-political organization, and in case actions of IFMSA may be perceived or are truly political, it is our joint responsibility to ensure that the mistakes in the work are pointed out and prompt actions taken to correct it. We would like to ask everyone that if something similar happens in the future, to use various communication channels we have available to reach out to responsible officials in order to react. This particular issue remained unobserved for many years now. Rest assured that we will be mentioning this as an important point in the EB handover manual, so that future EBs will be aware of it. If there are any documents currently being used, web pages with this or similar information, kindly let us know and we will look into correcting them as soon as possible. However, please take note that we do not have the capacity to explore the whole extent of the IFMSA archives, as a single file may be uploaded in multiple places on multiple accounts. We're therefore asking for your consideration of this as you continue your work in IFMSA. In case there are any other disputes that may lead to the work of IFMSA being observed as political, please make sure to contact us immediately until the end of the term and in the future, EB 2021. Thank you.
Thank you, IFMSA President. Please make sure that you send your statement to the plenary secretary team. We have a point of information from Senegal, FNESS. You have the floor.
Senegal here. It's a response to FMS Taiwan and the Subco intervention concerning the copyrights. Actually, the scenes were filmed in Dakar, Senegal a few days ago. So yes, we do have the copyrights. Thank you.
Senegal, could you please confirm this is related to the candidature of the SCORP director candidate?
The candidature for LRP.
LRP, I'm sorry. Yes, thank you very much.
You're
Okay, we
welcome.
have another point information from BVMD Germany. BVMD, you have the floor.
Yes, sorry. We just wanted to point out that the copyright also applies to music in the breaks, because this is also live streamed, and this already led to the strike of the last plenary, which is why it can't be accessed on YouTube anymore. So we might, maybe we should evaluate like this for the future and just use copyright-free music.
Thank you very much, BVMD. Now, unless we have any other statements or a request for a second speakers list, I'm going to proceed with providing the final reminders, at which point we're going to close this plenary. Okay, I'm going to go through the agenda for the day after tomorrow, as tomorrow is a free day where the only primary topic is going to be the team of officials candidates debate. So a plenary is not happening tomorrow. The next plenary is going to occur on the 5th of August and is going to be the 5th plenary. We have 5 topics. The first one is the changes to the bylaws. The second one is the adoption of the report of the VPA regarding the grammatical and renumbering changes to the constitution and bylaws. Then the third one regarding IFMSA honorary life members has not received any applications, therefore we're going to skip it. Then changes to the status of the IFMSA programs. And finally, adoption of the changes of status of national member organizations and admission of new NMOs. Those are the topics of the day. Make sure that you submit any motions that you're planning that you would like to discuss on that day, no later than 23:59 GMT on the day before. In other words, I think this is everything. Does anybody have any questions, concerns, comments?
You got disconnected, I think, in the last sentence that you mentioned, so repeat it again.
The last point that I mentioned was adoption of changes to the status of NMOs. That is the last point of the agenda for the day after tomorrow. If you would like to submit a motion for that plenary, make sure that you do it by tomorrow evening, 23:59 GMT. That is everything. So I would like to thank everyone. I wish you a pleasant evening, and I will see you tomorrow at the relevant officials debate. Have a nice evening. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Chairperson. We had a request from Slovenia that they would like to have an after party after you cut the stream off, so it wouldn't be deleted from YouTube. So, PRC, if you can do that, that would be great.